present. I'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is prior notification, messages of condolence. Is there any messages of condolence? No, thank you. We'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is the prior notifications of MPIs and conflicts of interest. We have one raised by Councillor O'Grady. I'll throw to you, Councillor O'Grady.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. So I, Desley O'Grady, declare that I have a perceived conflict of interest in item G 3.7, development application for material change of use premises for the relocatable home park, lot 101 Bryant Street, Agnes Water. As my brother John Murgard owns a block at 2717 Round Hill Road, Agnes Water, and operates a tourism business within Agnes Water, 1770. However, I am determined that this perceived interest is not significant, and I will be performed to my best responsibility as serving an overall public interest of the whole community by participating in the decision and voting on this matter. Therefore, I wish to stay in the room on this matter and to be voted on.
Thank you, Councillor O'Grady. Is there comments from councillors, please? Tanya, just from my point of view, if the fact that a family member owns a property in a suburb or a township, or if their family has a business in that same township, we're talking about a development application, this doesn't warrant a material personal interest or a conflict of interest?
Whether or not there's a material personal interest depends on whether or not Councillor O'Grady's sibling stands to gain a benefit or loss from the outcome of the decision, indirect or direct. Well,
every person in Agnes Water it would either potentially gain a benefit or be disadvantaged either way, one way or another, whether this is approved or refused later in the agenda. So it's a bit hard to say that an individual councillor has a conflict in this area unless their property is like next door. Surely the councillors' perceived benefit or opposite of that would be no greater than that of anybody else in the community.
Potentially, but it is a matter for Councillor O'Grady to determine.
Thank you. Over to you, Councillor Muscat.
I guess just mirroring what Tanya said, I mean, Councillor O'Grady, is your brother, is he standing to gain a benefit from this?
That's why I put in the CEO.
Okay.
You don't know what you don't know, so I don't know whether he doesn't, whether he's going to put his benefit. Are these blocks going to be sold? Are they,
Microphone, Councillor O'Grady.
Yeah, well, I guess so that would be a material conflict too. Would it be? Is that correct?
Well, that's why I'm
sorry.
to the vote.
Yeah, well, if she's declaring material interest, then
No, she's not declaring a material interest. She's declared a conflict of interest.
A perceived conflict.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's up to Councillor O'Grady if she believes that her brother is going to gain a financial or any other interest out of this.
Over to you, Councillor Goodluck.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Can I just ask, does the section of the Local Government Act that states no greater interest than an ordinary person living in the area, does that apply to this particular matter?
There is a provision in the Act that refers to that in respect of both conflicts of interest and MPIs.
Thank you. Well, I think that answers the question for me. Any other councillors have any other questions? Councillor Hanson?
No questions on that, Mr Mayor. Just to remind everybody that I am an appointed board member on the Gladstone Airport Corporation, and that item will come up later on, but according to the Act, I have not got a conflict of interest. I believe, is that right?
That's right, but I have to deal with this one first and then we can get with that. So does have a mover or...
I just wanted to ask a question, Mayor, mate, if you wouldn't mind. Just two questions. Has your brother been involved in any dialogue whatsoever as in relation to any of the submissions that have been received and or made? Okay, then. And I suppose my only other comment goes back from Councillor Khan, is that residents in the whole area could benefit or impact.
Exactly. So do I have a mover that Councillor Grady either remain in the room or be asked to leave the room, please? Thank you, Councillor Branthwaite moves. Councillor Grady remain in the room. Oh, sorry, we have to decide whether. Sorry, we have fantastic Queensland Government new rules. We have to first determine if a conflict exists. So you're going to say no conflict exists. Move Councillor Branthwaite that no conflict exists. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconder, Councillor Muscat. I'll put that vote now. All in favour? Those against? The motion's carried. Now I'll move a motion on whether Councillor O'Grady will remain in the room. Can I have a mover? Move Councillor Goodluck. Seconded. That's right. That no conflict exists. Oh, that's right. Of course not. Sorry. Yeah, no conflict exists. You remain in the room. We'll move to the next. Yes, Councillor Trevor. I'm getting through them. So the next one is Councillor Trevor. You have a.
Thank you, Mayor. I, Chris Trevor, declare that I have a material personal interest in item G/3.7 development application for a material change of use of premises for a relocatable home park, 190 sites staged at Lot 101 Bryant Street, Agnes Water, Queensland 4677. As my wife, Colleen Trevor, and I are directors of Warrabale Proprietary Limited as trustee for the C.A. Trevor Family Trust, which jointly owns a large parcel of vacant land very close to this development and may suffer a loss or gain a benefit dependent on the decision for this item. In the circumstances, I advise that I will leave the room during the consideration of item G/3.7.
Thank you, Councillor Trevor. There's no vote required on that. Is there any other prior notifications or notifications of MPIs or conflict of interest? Councillor Hanson, you wanted to raise?
Yes, in the item with the Gladstone Airport Board, I'm an appointed member from council on that board, but I believe, according to legislation, I do not have a conflict of interest and it will stay in the room on that item.
And Tanya, because all the boards are being voted on today, boards and committees, that would be the same for all councillors sitting in the room, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. If it's merely because of the appointment as a representative of council.
All right, so I don't need to take a vote on all of those, do I?
No.
Okay, Councillor Muscat?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On item G3.
No, Tanya just told me I don't need to deal with that.
I don't believe Councillor Hanson was declaring a conflict.
No,
I wasn't
just
declaring
checking.
a conflict of interest. I was just noting the members here this morning that, again, they would know this, but I am a member of a current member, appointed member of the Gladstone Airport Corporation. But I believe I believe, according to legislation, there is no conflict of interest, and I'll be staying in the room on that item.
Councillor Muscat?
Sorry, I forgot to unclick my button, so...
Only mine will cut you off. You can.
Okay. No, I think I was cutting Councillor Hanson off. Anyway, on item G3.4, councillor appointments to boards, committees and organisations, I have in the past declared a material conflict of interest in relation to GAPDL, Gladstone Area Promotion and Development Limited. Is this, I guess as a question, is this exercise similar, as in when we appoint someone to the board? Because I would like to leave for that appointment, if that's possible, or...
You can leave any time you like, but we're voting on who represents council on different boards and committees today. And while I think as much as possible that all council members should be in the room for those votes, unless legislation requires them to leave, Tanya?
That's correct. If you do have a conflict of interest or a material personal interest, you must declare it. But you merely don't have a conflict of interest because of an appointment to a particular board as a council representative.
So you're suggesting that Councillor Muscat wouldn't be able to vote on who the council appointee is for GAPDL board?
I'm not suggesting that. I'm just saying that if she feels that she has a material personal interest, that herself or a relevant person would receive a gain or benefit or a loss as a result of that appointment, then she should declare it.
Thank you, Tanya. Yes, I will. I was just, I guess, trying to understand whether the appointment of a board member would also be under the same circumstances. So yeah, I'd like to declare a material conflict of interest, or an interest, if that's how we do it. First, I declare an interest.
Material or
A material, but yeah.
A material personal interest, you will be required to leave the room.
That's correct. But I mean, only in the appointment of GAPDL board member, not the rest, that's all.
I think you would just have to, Councillor Muscat, identify what that interest is and how the decision to appoint a board member would cause you gain, benefit or loss. I think that would need to be clear.
I'm a current director of our organisation, Stronger Communities Limited, and we have a service agreement with GAPDL. Now, how I'm supposed to gain, I guess because of our close connections, I'm not really, it's just that I don't want to be part of deciding who's going into that board that also makes decisions as well as to our contract.
Thanks, Councillor Muscat. You've voted to leave the room. I'll leave it at that. I think we might move on unless anyone else has any more that they'd like to raise.
Can I just ask a question? Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As a member of GAPDL, does that require me to leave the room when there's an appointment made?
No.
Thank you.
No, Mr Mayor, I think we're all members and currently on these boards, including me on GAPDL and EQIP and others. But we'd all have to leave the room, I believe, if this is the case, but I don't think we do.
Councillor Muscat?
Yeah, just am I able to request that we separate the GAPDL items so I can stay for the other ones? Thank you.
Yep, that's going to happen. I'm going to deal through them
Thank
all
you.
individually. We're right to move on. Thank you. Righto, the next item on the agenda is the Mayor's statement on current issues. And I'd like to say that since our post-election meeting where all councillors were sworn in, and again, welcome to our new councillors, Councillor Branthwaite and Councillor Cameron, and I will reconfirm my thanks to Councillors PJ Sabeni and Councillor Peter Masters and Councillor Cindy Bush. And welcome back, all returning councillors. This year, Easter was like no other for the Gladstone region. Would have normally been our 72nd Brisbane to Gladstone yacht race. Normally it would have been live streamed to the world. We would have had thousands of people attend the Gladstone Harbour Festival and our Brisbane to Gladstone Village and our yachties festivities. Unfortunately this year, the only yachting was Sail Online's virtual Brisbane to Gladstone yacht race, which a few of us participated in. Thank you, Councillor Branthwaite. I certainly got a lesson in how to sail from that sailing online, but it was great to see that we still were able to, in small way, continue our Brisbane to Gladstone yacht race, which has a very strong tradition, not only just in Gladstone, but in Queensland and around Australia. So obviously everyone knows at Christmas time we have the Sydney to Hobart, but at Easter time we have the Brisbane to Gladstone yacht race, and it's equally as important on our national calendar. Since our last post-election meeting, there was a Local Government Association of Queensland Policy Executive teleconference, was held on the 17th of April, where we highlighted our $600 million plan for Queensland communities on how the Queensland Government can support Queensland communities through local government to get our local economies back on track during and post the coronavirus. On the 23rd of April, I was fortunate enough to do a tour of the new Gladstone Emergency Department, and I'm pleased to advise that it is on track and on schedule to be completed in May, so that's next month, and operational in July. That's the $42 million redevelopment of the Gladstone, not redevelopment, new build for the Gladstone Emergency Department, and it's a fantastic new facility. And if you have a look at the floor plan, you'll see just how small the current ED is in comparison to the new one. So shout out to Glenn Butcher for his hard work in securing that $42 million into the Queensland Government. Of course, they also recently secured the Mater Hospital as well, so that's fantastic for health services in the Gladstone region. On the 24th of April, I attended a teleconference, ELGA, Australian Local Government Association Board Forum, where we reinforced to the federal government our support to increase the federal assistance grants to local governments. The Prime Minister has said himself that the best way to support communities and businesses, and of course councils, I guess you could say, during this coronavirus is to use existing programs. That's why they're using the tax office and others. And what better existing program than the ones to local government, the federal assistance grants, the roads to recovery, the programs that have proven time and time again that they can get the jobs on the ground and keep the economy moving. It is disappointing, of course, that the Jobs Keeper program doesn't extend to local government, but I do take my hat off to the federal government and the state government doing a fantastic job in supporting our community through these very uncertain times. But we would certainly like to see those federal assistance grants increased at an ELGA level, so for every local government in Australia to see an increase in federal assistance grants to help local councils ease the burden on local ratepayers when their budgets come up in the next few months. Speaking of things that were different to any other time ever in the past, or certainly in my life anyway, the 25th of April, Anzac Day, was like no other in my lifetime, obviously. It has been the case before. We haven't had dawn services, but a long time before I was born, and I'd like to congratulate the RSL Queensland and our local community for lighting up the dawn, which took place right across, not just across Queensland, but I believe across Australia, and certainly was well participated in the Gladstone region. I know in my street, for as far as I could see left and right, and it's a very long street, my road, everyone was participating. There was only one person wasn't, and I believe they weren't home, so they're probably participating with family somewhere else. So it was really great to see the Gladstone region get out and support our Anzacs on Anzac Day. Coming up, of course, this weekend in the Gladstone region is the Boyne-Tanham Hookup. It's the virtual Boyne-Tanham Hookup, so if you haven't got your tickets, please jump online, grab your tickets and support that fantastic event. It's celebrating 25 years this year and is virtual from the 1st to the 3rd of May. Some fantastic prizes on offer, and I really recommend that you get involved, and they're going to be playing live music and everything, so it's going to be a fantastic virtual Boyne-Tanham Hookup this year, which of course leads into Labor Day, so the Labor Day long weekend, another event that won't necessarily be happening the way it has in the past. So on Monday, the 4th of May, will be the Labor Day public holiday in the Gladstone region, and I wish everyone a happy Labor Day holiday, but of course it'll be, as I said, like no other before. And I'd like to wrap up my Mayor's statement by putting a personal thanks to Central Queensland University Associate Vice-Chancellor Professor Owen Nevin, who has finished up at the University of Central Queensland. Unfortunately, due to the coronavirus, the university has had to make significant changes, and Professor Owen Nevin has been a champion for our local community, and I wish him all the best in his future endeavours, and hopefully he remains within our local community. Thank you. We'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is a confirmation of minutes, and G2.1 is a confirmation of the general meeting minutes for the 17th of March 2020. Move Councillor Churchill, seconded Councillor Trevor, that the minutes be accepted. Is there any discussion? No. I put the motion. All in favour? Motion's carried. The next item on the agenda is G2.2, which is confirmation of the special meeting for the 24th of March 2020. Move Councillor Goodluck, seconded Councillor O'Grady, that the minutes be accepted. Any discussion? I put the motion. All in favour? Motion's carried. In regards to the next item on the agenda, which is G2.3, the confirmation of the post-election meeting minutes for the 9th of April, I'd like to move that these be held over because the Mayor's statement, unfortunately, didn't make it to the agenda. So as we can move that we are actually meeting next week. We won't be meeting weekly. We meet on the 1st and 3rd, but our first meeting, this doesn't fall in line, but next week we'll be back into the normal schedule. So I'd like to move that we defer that to the next meeting so that the full agenda can be included. Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Hanson. All in favour? Thank you. The motion is carried. We'll move to the next item on the agenda, and that is the officers' reports, G3.1, which is the establishment of advisory committees. Over to you, Tanya.
Good morning, councillors. This is the first report of a number of reports today that consider formalisation of different groups, committees and representatives on the same. Council has previously endorsed the Psyche Sister City Advisory Committee and the Gladstone Region Youth Council, which operate as formalised advisory committees in accordance with the requirements of the Local Government Act and the Local Government Regulations. The officer's recommendation is that in accordance with the provisions of section 264 sub 1 sub B of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council re-establish the following advisory committees, that being Gladstone Psyche Sister Advisory Committee and Gladstone Region Youth Council Advisory Committee in accordance with the terms of reference contained in the report.
Thank you. Questions to the General Manager, please? Councillor Hanson.
It was all pretty straightforward, Mr Mayor. I say move that motion.
Thank you. Move Councillor Hanson. A seconder, please. Seconder, Councillor Moscat. I put the motion. All in favour? Motion's carried. Back to you, Tanya.
Mark will be presenting the next report.
Oh, sorry, you two. Over to Manager of Governance, Finance and Risk.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Morning, councillors. The first report there is a report with respect to your membership to the Business Improvement Committee. So the Business Improvement Committee is a committee that is established to outwork the roles and responsibility of the Audit Committee as defined by the Local Government Act. So there's whilst a Audit Committee is not mandated, it is certainly recognised as best practice that you maintain a Audit Committee, and the Business Improvement Committee has been fulfilling that function for Council for a number of years. So this report is actually around considering membership of that, as well as looking around the extension of a couple of our external members. So as part of making sure that we're getting that good advice and external review, we do have currently 3 external members on that committee that provide that external oversight and that good little bit of insight from outside of the organisation to provide that best of industry practice. So for your consideration, and happy to take questions.
Thank you, Mark. I believe 4 councillors are interested. Councillor Goodluck, Councillor Branthwaite, Councillor Muscat and Councillor O'Grady. Is that correct? Do we just need to decide on who the board members are and who the proxies are?
For the alternates, yep.
Okay. Councillors, would you like to speak to it, please? Councillor Goodluck.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Also, we need to discuss the potential name change, and just to give some context as a former committee member, I think, and Councillor Hanson can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the Business Improvement Committee members felt that the name of the Business Improvement Committee doesn't necessarily reflect the audit and risk component that the work that the committee does. So that's why it was suggested that we consider a name change, so that throughout the business of council we can better acknowledge that work. I personally like option E, which is Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee. It's still, obviously it captures that audit and risk component, and still reflects that we're trying to improve the business undertakings of council. So I like that option, and I'd be happy to put that forward if no one's got any objections. And outside of that, I would like to continue as a member on Business Improvement Committee, or whatever the next name will be, having only been on there for about 2 years, but I think that would be good for continuity on the committee as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to clarify, the recommendation 5 endorsed the name change to Audit Risk Committee. You're suggesting something else, was that right?
Audit Risk. Risk and Improvement Committee.
Option E, yeah.
Councillors, by way of background, the Business Improvement Committee was initially named Business Improvement to get the buy-in from the organisation, recognising that Audit Committee from times has sometimes a negative connotation, and not necessarily seen from its improvement. It has matured, and certainly recognises that, I guess, as the organisation has matured, so has this committee. So that's why, I guess, the look at changing the name to recognise that and put the appropriate emphasis on those audit and risk activities is proposed.
Okay, thank you.
Mr Mayor, most other councils go with audit and risk, so that's a commonality. No one that I know of has a Business Improvement Committee other than us in that title.
Thank you, Mark. Is the Councillor O'Grady, are you the other current committee member? Is that correct?
No, Mr Mayor. Councillor Hanson is, and I have been proxy for the last 18 months, 2 years, so I would like to take the second position if it is available.
Okay, thank you. So I have Councillor Goodluck, Councillor O'Grady are interested in the committee positions. Councillor Branthwaite and Muscat, are you happy to be proxies, or would you like to be...
Yeah, I'm fine with that, Mr Mayor, thank you.
Councillor Muscat?
I would also like to be part of the committee. I have attended a few meetings over the last, I guess, 16 months now. And it's just, I'd like to be in the committee as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Muscat. I have therefore 3 nominations for 2 positions of committee member. Could I have a councillor move, or would any other councillor like to speak to it before I have a mover? No? Councillor Trevor?
I'm happy to move that Councillor Khan Goodluck and Councillor Desley O'Grady be appointed as committee members, and Councillor Darryl Branthwaite and Councillor Natalia Muscat be appointed as proxies.
Thank you, Councillor Trevor. Do I have a seconder for the motion, please? Thank you, Councillor Cameron. Any further discussion? No, I'll put the motion that Councillor Goodluck and Councillor O'Grady be appointed to the committee and that Councillor Branthwaite and Muscat be appointed as proxies. Motion, all in favour, please. Those against? Motion's carried. Thank you. Back to you, Mark, for the next item, I believe.
Sorry, Mr Mayor,
Oh.
are we going to,
Sorry, I was just, we'll have to go through the rest of them. So do we want to go through these one by one or just move straight to 5?
There's a couple in there that are pretty important. Number 3 is very important. 2 is very important.
Okay, thank you. We'll move to item 2, that we receive and accept the minutes of the Business Improvement Committee held on the 4th of March. Moved by Councillor Hanson, seconded Councillor Churchill. Put the motion, all in favour. Put the motion, all in favour. I need some hands, thank you. Carried. Next item is item 3, which is extension and endorsement of tenure of Sandra Collins for additional 3.5 years to expire on the December 2023.
I can add a comment to that, if I may, and Councillor Goodluck may want to say something as well. But I've worked with these 2 people, and they've been excellent on the committee from the get-go. They have diverse interests. One is an accountant and one is an engineer. So we're covering all of those things, from the finances to asset management and everything else in between. So they give a good coverage to the rest of the committee. Us mere mortals fill in little gaps here and there. So I'm talking about Councillor Goodluck and I. But I would endorse that tenure for an extra 3.5 years.
Thanks, Councillor Hanson. You're happy to move point 3 and 4, so Sandra Collins and Stephen Coates
Yes.
for 3.5?
Happy to.
Is there a seconder for that?
Mayor Matt, just a quick question, and I'm totally supportive of the recommendations 3 and 4. The makeup of the committee, is that something that the committee makes a determination on, or is that this council has made that determination on the 3 appointed representatives exclusive of the elected members?
Yeah, so council makes that decision. You've got a overall policy and a charter that supports the operations of the Business Improvement Committee. Or if we're going to change the name, then we do. So it is then, and that has been adopted by council. So within that, it does currently provide for 2 external members. But when we appointed both Stephen and Sandra several years ago now, it was recognised that we've made that initial investment to get that additional external expertise on board. So by renewing the memberships that are proposed, there's no additional cost. So essentially you have 3 external members. You have the chair, which is Kerry Phillips. Then you've got these 2 external members here.
Thank you. So move Councillor Hanson that items 3 and 4 be adopted. Seconder, please. Seconded Councillor Goodluck. Any further discussion? No. I'll put the motion. All in favour? Motion's carried, and we'll move to item 5. Councillor Goodluck, you had an alternative to move there.
thank you, Mr Mayor. I take on board Mark's comments before. I think you said, Mark, that back in the day, the reason the name was changed to the Business Improvement Committee was because it was formerly known as an Audit and Risk Committee, but lost sight of that business improvement component. Is that what you were saying?
It was really about garnering organisational buy-in and support for the program. So was recognising to get that traction from within the organisation, focusing on improvement rather than audit, had probably those more positive vibes around it. So that's essentially why we went that way. But certainly, and there was actually several business improvement committees in place across the state. They've now changed as alleged, and that was prior to audit committees being required by the regulation. Now audit committees are in by regulation, and generally the standard is audit and risk committee. So audit, risk and improvement, as you propose, would probably be the best of both worlds.
Yeah, I'd like to think that ultimately the name of the committee is not going to determine what work's being done anyway, so I'm not going to die in the ditch over it. But there's three important components from my perspective of the work that the committee does, and that's audit, risk, and improvement. And I think that's an appropriate name, so I'd be happy to move that.
Thank you, Councillor Goodluck. Move that the
Option E.
Yep, the Business Improvement Committee be referred to as the Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee. Seconder for the motion.
Happy to
Councillor
second that,
O'Grady.
Mayor.
Oh, thank you. Seconder, Councillor Trevor. I put the motion. All in favour? That's carried. Thank you. Move to the next item on the agenda, which is G 3.3, Gladstone Airport Corporation Board appointment. Back to you, Mark.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This item is with respect to considering the expiring terms of two of the existing board members for Gladstone Airport Corporation. So Mr Graham Konofsky and Ms Tina Zuwilla are currently members of the board, and their terms are expiring as at 30th of June. It is our time now to consider those memberships and whether we want to look at extending those for an additional period. We have put a number of options to you. You can look. The board has recommended extension of the two members. There is a risk with that, in that you will now have then, if that you were to adopt that, you would actually have all board members expiring on the same day, which there's obviously a risk with that. There is obviously the alternatives that you may want to do is stagger the terms, or alternatively go and seek and recruitment for a external board appointment.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. There's no way we can have all board members retiring on the same time. That's very bad governance. So I'm happy with both Tina and Graham to continue, but I think in different times. So potentially one for 1 year, one for 3 years, or something along those lines, so that they don't fall off at the same time, because potentially you could have all the board leave on the 30th of June 2022, which is, that's not appropriate at all. Councillors, questions or statements, please?
So you would stagger the others as well?
We could do. The current board members are appointed for a certain time, so we'd have to, I don't know how we'd go about changing their current appointment, but the two that are up for renewal right now is Tina Zwiller and Graham Konofsky, and as long as we stagger the time so that they don't finish on the 30th of June 2022, I think that would provide some continuity.
The other three board members, externally appointed board members, expire on 30th of June 22. So at this point, that remains in place, those appointments, until you resolve otherwise. So,
Councillor Goodluck?
Mr Mayor, I agree with you, and happy to support the notion that we might renew one for 1 year and another director for a 3-year term. And as a part of the motion, could we possibly ask the board to consider a recommendation so that they can work out amongst the board members who's best to stagger and how, and then provide a recommendation back to us, which we can then consider at a future date.
Thank you. Any Mark and Councillor Muscat?
Whilst it's not necessarily the board can make a recommendation, it is actually, I guess, a responsibility of council as owner, and it's right in the constitution, to look at the skills of people you have on the board and the matrix of that, and the terms in which we could probably develop some options and get their endorsement or get their input into that. But in terms of, it's probably not solely a board responsibility.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, absolutely, it's council's responsibility. I'd like to know from the board's perspective, we might make a decision here to extend the term of one particular director without knowing what that director's future plans are. They might not be planning on, hanging around themselves. So I'd just like the board's input into that solution. Obviously, we'll make the decision that we think is best at the time, but I'd certainly like to hear from them what their feedback is.
Thank you, Councillor Muscat.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I wanted to, I guess I don't have a problem with what we're trying to do here, but what I do have a problem is I'm not comfortable, I guess, not not knowing many of the people that we're appointing, or how they performed, or how they contribute to the board, or how many meetings they attended. And I know this is probably somewhere, but I guess obviously going on what Mark just said, it's not a matter of who and how long, but also how they fit their skills and how their skills were utilised into the operations of the airport. So I think we have discussed this before, if I remember correctly, as to get some kind of more information as the contributions of those board members into the operations of the airport.
And Mark, you're happy to answer that, but Councillor Hanson is our rep on the board. He might be able to comment on that, but I can give you anything you need to know about each and every one of these people as well. But we're particularly talking about Tina, who is an accountant, and Graham, former CEO of Gladstone Regional Council, Calliope Shire Council, former CEO of the Gladstone Airport Corporation. The reason Graham was put on there in the first place is because there's probably no one in the community that would know more of the history of that organisation than Graham. Right now, having the accountant and the financial skills of Tina Zwiller on there could be never more important. But
I'm not questioning their skills. I'm just making sure that we making decisions based on the information that we have in front of us. And you will know, others around here might not know. So, and this is for the public also to understand that we don't just pick people because we like them, but it's because they have skills and they can contribute to the betterment of our big airport, especially right now.
Councillor Hanson, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I've worked with these people for the last 2 years, and I find them, Graham Konoski, his skills in identifying history of the airport are invaluable. And of course, what can I say about Tina Zawila? She's been a breath of fresh air as well to the board with her financial skills. So I would have to recommend both of them, and probably not just both of them, the rest of the board as well, because I believe in the circumstances we're in now, and we're going to get tighter. We'll need to band together on this one and try and get us over the line into the next, hopefully, financial era, if you could say that. But yeah, I would recommend both of them.
Thank you, Councillor Hanson. Councillor O'Grady?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Mark, have both these people been contacted to see if they'd like to pursue another 3 years or 2 years?
Yes, they have.
Yeah.
Yep.
Councillor Trevor?
No disrespect to the members of the board, because I know each and every one of them, and I know that they are wonderful people and community champions, but I do wonder, given the current economic circumstances surrounding the coronavirus and the likely reduction in revenue coming into the Gladstone Airport Corporation, whether it might be time to give consideration to a report coming to this boardroom table to decide whether the matter should be brought back in-house, or whether we should continue to have a corporation working extraneously from the council itself. I'd be interested to know the costings of having the matter dealt with in-house, run in-house, rather than being run by an independent board of directors.
Thank you,
Mayor
Councillor
Matt?
Trevor.
Just as a segue from that, and I'm not opposed to the appointment of these people to continue to do what they're doing, but if this council, during the term of the next 4 years, decides to undertake a review immediately or thereafter in relation to the future of the Airports Corporation, I just want to be comforted that any tenure that these wonderful people have, of the work that they've been doing, that it's not a long-term impact in relation to the appointment and the tenure to our ratepayers.
I can answer that. So Mark might correct me if I'm wrong, but if we were to appoint all beyond 2022, and then in 2021 we made the decision to pull it back in-house, we will just cancel their tenure, and that would be the end of it. They're a board that we've appointed, and we can dismiss that board at any time. Is that correct, Mark?
If you'll bring it back in-house, you'd essentially be disbanding the corporation, so the corporation will no longer exist as a legal entity.
Thank you. That's a report Councillor Trevor might like
So,
to call for at some point.
There is a...
I'd like to call for the report immediately.
there's probably-
Thanks, Mark.
I'd probably also flag there's probably some, if we're talking about options and skills matrix of the board and trying to get that understanding, that's probably part of that report as well. So it's probably a broader piece with respect to there. Just whilst not related to this, because this is about the continuity of the Gladstone Airport and maintaining the Gladstone Airport Corporation board as it currently exists, and looks at just the renewal of these two members. There is a council resolution on the books with respect to looking at alternative delivery options for the Gladstone Airport with Queensland Treasury Corporation. So that is on the books and is a live resolution. So there's still, as this the economic impacts of this event unfolds, there may well be some more interest in those scenarios.
Thank you. Councillor Goodluck, did you have something to add?
Mr Mayor, I'm just wondering if we make the decision today to extend the tenure of the two respective directors to 30 June 2022, and then perhaps give the board 6 months or a time frame to provide a recommendation to us and some insights around how they might recommend to us to shape the board and stagger those tenures. Obviously, we'll make our own decisions, but I'm just a bit hesitant to sit here and say today that we'd appoint one director for 1 year and another for 3 years. I don't know what those directors' plans are, and that there's a possibility that we could do that, and then next week we come back and say, oh well, actually one of those directors that you've appointed for 3 years is not going to be here in 12 months' time anyway. Do we have that sort of information? I take on board your comments, Mark. We will make the decision ultimately at the end of the day that we think's best, but I would like to have some context and information from the board to inform that decision.
Another option you can look at as part of the options is actually probably extending both, if that's you're looking at different options in the space, is actually extend both for 3 years, putting them out beyond the 20, so that way you have staggered. And so these two appointments were made at the same time. You could look at making these for 3 years to extend beyond that, and then in terms of that further report that comes back, we then look at the identification of how you may your skills matrix and how you may best look at the board rolling forward, and then have that consultation with the board as part of that.
Yeah, I personally can't support a motion that flies in the face of good governance, where we would be putting all board members to retire on the same date. I just couldn't support that. It isn't either. For me, it's 1 year and 3 years, 2 1 years, 2 3 years, or 4 years or something, but couldn't possibly support something that has everyone retiring on the same time. Councillor Trevor?
Mayor, I'm concerned in relation to agreeing to any recommendation today until I'm able to ascertain the current financial situation of the Gladstone Airport Corporation. My view from an outsider looking in and as a local business person is that we have probably taken a huge hit out there. And that it's not just a flesh wound. I suspect there is some substantial bleeding as a result of what's going on with coronavirus, and I'd be interested to know as soon as possible what our financial position is in relation to that particular corporation before I'm able to give any consideration as to the future of the directors of that board.
Before I throw to other councillors, if we don't appoint at least one beyond 30th of June 2020, the board would be not properly constituted. Is that correct? So we have to at least appoint one, for even while that, because it's going to take more than the 30th of June to get that report for you. It probably takes several months, or not. The finances you could probably get in a month, but the other report you're talking about will take a long time. Mark, can you comment on that? Because I don't want to see us hit the 30th of June and then not have a properly constituted board.
That's right. So the Constitution does say not less than 5 directors. So it doesn't necessarily call on whether that would include a councillor director. So you would need to at least appoint one. Commentary with respect to the financial position, the corporation does have a strong cash position. That it's more the long term. The issue for the airport will be its long term operations. So in terms of meeting its bills as they fall due and,
Yeah.
and its current operations.
I was going to say that through the Mayor previously. The board has met all of its obligations to council over the last period that I've been involved in it. It's not me, it's the other board members to keep it in touch. Governance has been improved. Of course, a blind man and his dog could see that the coronavirus has ripped the heart and soul out of the airport because no one's flying. And that's every airport in Australia, so we're not on our lonesome. But we have a recovery plan in place to come out the other side of this. So we're not just sitting on our heels. So as I said, the board over the years that I've been involved has met all of its financial obligations to the shareholder and remains in a solid cash, as Mark said, position moving forward. So we can sustain this episode and come out the other side with able to pay our staff as well. So basically that's it.
It's very reassuring. Thank you, Councillor Hanson.
Thank you, Councillor Trevor.
Thank you. I guess I have to somehow agree with Councillor Trevor and some of his concerns. I was just wondering if maybe we can extend the two members that are due, their appointment is expiring in 2020, maybe for the 1 year instead of the 2, and then wait for the report that Councillor Trevor is asking about. We're also going to speak about the airport financials when we move on to a financial report. I'm sure I was going to spend some time talking about that anyway. And then there's also, last week we received a number of letters and councils advocating for some extra support from the government to help us with airports. And as Matt said earlier about, how the government is actually not, a lot of the packages are not translated to local governments, but that doesn't mean that's going to stay that way. So there are potential solutions there, and there is hope. So maybe if we can just compromise on maybe 1 year extension and then wait for the report and then go from there, because I think we need to continue to have a fully operating board.
I agree. Councillor
That's
Hanson, then I
absolutely
agree.
correct in regard to finances available from the government to assist airports. There's nothing in place at the moment, but our CEO, Mark, is working with other CEOs in every other regional airport in Australia to put as much pressure and try and get some of that financial support for regional airports. So that's happening at the moment. So it was a good point, Councillor.
Councillor O'Grady, then good luck.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I agree with Councillor Muscat for the reason being I think we need some stability through this time we're going through with COVID. So I think if we both appoint them for another year and then we can make that decision next year once we've come out the other end of this, hopefully.
Thank you. Councillor Goodluck.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd be happy to see the report at a later date as well, but my understanding, the reason the Gladstone Airport Corporation was formed was, there was substantial reasoning at that time, and it came at a fairly substantial cost and a lot of resources, and to reverse that decision and bring it back in-house would also come at fairly substantial cost, and we'd have to employ the expertise. I don't think we've got any airport management expertise within council currently. It sits under the Gladstone Airport Corporation, so at a minimum we'd have to employ those people. I think over the past 4 years the current board has done a fairly good job. They've certainly improved in a number of areas, and whilst I'm happy to see a report, we should always look at all of our available options, but I'm not personally expecting there to be a whole great deal of benefit. We've also had discussions with other airports, and we've looked at other potential opportunities for the Airport Corporation, and we've done a fairly substantial body of work on other potential opportunities that might be available to us with the Airport Corporation. I don't think, now's not a good time. COVID's certainly thrown a spanner in the works, not just for us, but for the whole country and the world. But I think there will come a point in time where those potential opportunities, resurface, so we shouldn't lose sight of that either. But I'd be happy to support both board members either for 1 year or appoint both for 3 years and then start the discussions with the board about making sure that they remain sustainable as far as their tenure, subject to a decision of council that, takes us in a different direction.
Thanks, Councillor Goodluck. As Mark said, we have still got some options on the board with Queensland Treasury, and the conversation has been started again, so without breaching confidentiality of other councils, some other councils in the country, certainly I won't give you away the area, have already started a conversation with us and other airports as well about how we might revamp or reinvigorate that conversation that Treasury had about our airports working together. It makes sense, and it makes a lot more sense right now. So what I'm hearing is a little bit of agreement around the room in certain areas. So I'm going to see if we might be able to suggest that someone might like to move the appointment for 12 months for both directors, but also that a report on future options for the Gladstone Airport, including partnering with other airports and bringing the operation back in-house, be tabled at a future council meeting. Is that what I'm hearing, councillors?
Do you want to put a time frame on that?
I didn't.
Yeah. So
Oh, yes, well, within the 12 months,
probably
obviously.
31st of December.
It's a big report.
Yeah, by end of December.
Okay, end of December, end of the financial calendar year?
Yep.
Councillors, that's the sort of recommendation we're looking at. Is someone happy to move something like that?
Just before you do, Mr Mayor, I see all the appointments for every other board are on here for councillors, but this one is conspicuous in its absence, so we should be sorting this out too, shouldn't we?
Now, that's happening today. I'm sorry, it's not
Is
on
it
the
happening
agenda.
today? It's not on the agenda, that's all.
No, it's not. Neither is Water Board, but they'll all pop up
Thank you,
eventually.
Mr Mayor.
So,
Were you
Councillor Trevor-
specifically looking for it, Councillor Hanson?
If I
Councillor Goodluck?
Thought I had your support, councillor.
Councillor Goodluck?
just before I would prefer 3-year tenure. If we decide to take a different direction, but in 12 months, we're just going to have to be back here again potentially in 12 months' time, aren't we, to reappoint directors. So 3 years gives us the opportunity to do everything we're trying to achieve.
It does, but then if you're signalling to the board that I'm happy with 3 years as well, but you're signalling to the board that we're going to be reviewing it all, but then offering someone a 3-year tenure, and yet you're only, within the next 6 months, you're going to have a report come back. So I personally think it's a clash of what you're recommending, if that's what someone wants, but I did put forward a motion that someone was happy to move, so I'll just go back
You've got
with
to
that.
move it for the motion, I think, Mayor Matt.
Yeah. Moved Councillor Trevor and seconded Councillor Muscat that the positions be appointed for 12 months, and that for the minutes, where are we, Carly, over there? Thank you, that before the end of the calendar year, that a report be prepared for a future council meeting with options for the Gladstone Airport, including partnering with other airports and bringing the operation back in-house. Basically, that's it. That's what I have, a mover and a seconder for. I hear what you're saying, Councillor Goodluck. Did you want to speak further to it now that I have a mover and seconder? Thank you. I'm going to put that motion. Before I do, any further conversation? No. Put the motion. All in favour? The motion's carried. Thank you. We'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is G3.4, which is council appointments to boards and committees and organisations. Back to you, Tanya. This one's going to take a little while, councillors.
So this report contains all the appointments for both internal and external boards, committees and groups that council have representatives on. The resolution as proposed, it's split into a number of groups, so external organisations and boards, internal committees. You may choose to deal with that differently. I would just like to add, with respect to the board appointments to external organisations, that we have received some advice from the Department of Natural Resources, Mines and Energy yesterday regarding the appointment of Peter Masters to the Gladstone Area Water Board. Their advice is that they would like confirmation from the newly formed council that they are still happy to support the previous resolution of council during the last term, which was to appoint Councillor Masters.
Thank you, Tanya. I'll probably deal with that one last, but I'll go through all these ones first. Did Councillor Trevor, you want to ask a question?
Just in relation to that advice, Tanya, I'm troubled from a governance point of view. There's a resolution currently on the books, and unless it's my understanding that unless a notice of motion is brought by a councillor of this current council to change that resolution, that resolution stands as a matter of law. So I don't want to be told by a government department how this council should run its business, particularly given the nature of the request, and that is asking us to confirm a resolution that's already been resolved. So my issue is that whilst the government department may insist of this council to make a decision, I don't think it's appropriate according to the law, and I think that if someone wishes to adhere to the request of the department or alternatively change the appointment of Peter Masters to the board, they must bring a notice of motion back before this council, and that notice of motion will need to be sanctioned by this current council. That's my view. Mayor?
Thanks, Councillor Trevor. I agree with that. CEO?
Just to clarify, Councillor Trevor, that was certainly the view that we had in relation to this matter. Just in reviewing the resolutions, there were a number of them on that day. One of them was that a councillor be appointed to GORB, be nominated, correction. So that has occurred in accordance with the resolution. At that time, I don't believe that it was known that Councillor Masters would not be recontesting the election and therefore not continuing as a councillor. So I'm comfortable that we've done what was resolved, but just wanted to make sure for transparency that all councillors were aware of that request. So it is a bit of a tricky one.
Councillor Branthwaite?
What just concerns me is that in the past the councillors have had a pretty big presence on this board, and it's been reduced back down to one, and now we're appointing a person that actually isn't a councillor. I don't have a problem with appointing a person that isn't a councillor, but making sure that this council's current council does not lose a seat on that board because of that appointment. That just concerns me, that we're actually appointing a non-councillor, but does that renege on our I suppose, obligations as appointing a councillor?
Thanks, Councillor Branthwaite. I'll throw to Councillor Churchill.
Yeah, thanks very much, Mayor Matt. I totally agree with Councillor Chris as such for good governance and a point of law as well. But I think what we need to do is we're dealing with a verbal request that's come from the department. I appropriately would like to see something in writing that clearly articulates what it is that they're wanting us to do. No disrespect to you or to the officer in any way, shape or form. And I've made my opinion quite clear previously, and maybe the other point needs to be clarified, is that is it a councillor, and I understand where Councillor Branthwaite's coming from, is it a councillor's position on the Gladstone Area Water Board, or is it a community person, a community representative who will represent the best interests of the residents and ratepayers and the Gladstone Regional Council? So we're dealing with a verbal request from the department. I'd like to see something in writing for us to make a determination, and as Councillor Chris has said, a notice of motion. But if our motion has been indicated that it was Councillor Peter Masters, then that's probably the point of law or the point of good governance that we need to get clarified in our decision making. Thanks.
May I just clarify the two parts of the resolution? One was that a councillor be nominated. So we did that. A councillor was nominated back in September last year. So we don't do the appointments, we just do the nomination. But that discussion was had, Councillor Churchill, that the decision of this council at that time was that a councillor be nominated to the board. So we have followed that through, just simply indicating because of the time that is taken for the department to do that review process, hence their request. So it's your level of comfort. It's a tricky issue, but you did nominate a councillor. That person is no longer a councillor. There's a bit of tension between the two aspects of the resolution.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, Madam CEO, but for good governance, what I'm indicating is that I would like to see something in writing from the department, and I would also like to get a clear understanding and have it clarified of the role of the appointment of that person within the Gladstone Area Water Board. Is it a councillor that's appointed to that board as a director, or is it a community representative that will represent the best interests of council and our residents and ratepayers?
Was it Councillor Muscat, sorry?
I don't see a problem with confirming with the department that we still agreeing with the decision we made back in September. So I don't. So it is very understandable. We made a decision based on the fact that someone was a councillor. Now he's no longer a councillor. So that's only a normal thing for anyone to ask for us to reconfirm that that's the direction we want to take. So.
Thank you.
Mr.
Councillor
Mayor,
Hanson.
we would not be setting a precedence in this area. This has happened twice before in history since I've been on council, that a former councillor has remained on the board. It's happened twice, I think. Is that correct, Mr. Mayor? You'd know that?
Yeah, Councillor McDonald reigned on the water board, and probably Councillor Butler, maybe? Warren Dinty, actually.
Councillor
Warren did
Dinty
for a very long time.
Calliope Shire.
Also, we have actually appointed community reps in the past as well, in Malcolm Leinster, and can't remember, but certainly have. I take on board what Councillor Branthwaite said, though. We've gone from having a joint local authority where the Gladstone Town Council and the Calliope Shire Council had complete control of the board, down to 4, down to 2, down to 1. So it is very good. But Councillor Masters, I'm sure, is representing the community very well. I think we might just leave this. Sorry, I'll throw to Councillor Goodluck in a second. It's not on our agenda to deal with today, and we don't have anything in writing from the department. And if and when we do, we can deal with it then. Councillor Goodluck.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I take on board what you're saying, but just in regards to having a councillor appointed to the board, and we had this debate, and I'm going to reconfirm my position.
You lost that debate, Councillor. Here you go.
I did, but yet here we are again.
All those in favour?
Here we are again. But under, anyone that we appoint to the board, it's my understanding we can appoint whoever we want. Council can nominate either a councillor to the position or a community member, as we've heard, has been done in the past. We have the ability to nominate whomever we think will do the best job on that board. As under corporations law, whoever we appoint, be it a councillor or a community member, they are subject to the Corporations Act, which means their first and foremost duties is to the Gladstone Area Water Board, not to council. So what we have seen over the past 4 years, under the tightening up of conflict of interest provisions, etc., is continuously where councillors cannot sit in the room and discuss with colleagues issues arising from being appointed on a board such as GORB. And I suspect that when they're sitting in the room with GORB at a board meeting and an issue comes up of council, they cannot sit in that room either, because it's a conflict of interest or a conflict of duty. And what we have now with former Councillor Masters is a community member, a community champion, I'm sure we all agree. Also, we've got former Councillor Maxine Bruce, who's the chair of the board. I've got no doubt personally that we've got enough within the representatives of GORB that know and understand what councils and our community's best interests are. And the benefit I see, keeping in mind I didn't support Councillor Masters going on the board as a councillor. I did ultimately once I'd lost the debate, but now what I do like is that former Councillor Masters or any other one of the board members can walk into this room and have a discussion with us about the performance of board or about what initiatives or projects or things that we want to try and achieve together, collaboratively on behalf of our community. If we appoint a councillor, that will not necessarily be the case. So I'd be happy to just reconfirm our decision from last year today, rather than, I think it's only reasonable that Gorb or the department has asked us to reconfirm based on the wording of the motion, and I think for the interest of just getting the job done, we can just do that today. I'd be happy to move, but I'm subject to risking losing.
For losing, so it's not an item on there at the moment, but we could probably deal with that. But I would hate for you to have your motion lapse for want of a seconder. We don't have to deal with this, and I think I think that we've discussed it a few times about where to from here, and that it probably does require a notice of motion. I don't know that we can deal with an item that is in conflict with what is currently on the agenda without a notice of motion on the books. I'm going to throw to the Councillor Churchill, then the CEO.
Well, just a quick one for good governance, and we've had precedents, and it is in our council of good governance principles that you can accept urgent business, but that aside, I don't understand what the urgency is.
What I might do, councillors, is we can deal with that if we feel, unless you want to move a motion, I might prefer you not, but you're totally your choice. I think we got enough boards and committees to deal with at the moment, without having to deal with one that's not on the agenda. Okay, good. I'm going to move through them. The way I'm going to deal with this, Tanya, unfortunately for you, so you need a pen and paper ready, is not in the order you have, but in the order I have. And the reason I'm going to do that is I want to deal with the ones that I know that only one councillor is interested in first, and then I can have them resolved and deal with the ones where there's interest, more than one or more than the number of required interested parties. So the first one I'll deal with is in your order, which is Gladstone Area Promotion Development Limited, and Councillor Hanson has indicated he would like to continue in that role. Would anybody else, any other councillor interested in nominating for that position? Oh, you have to leave, that's right. Councillor Muscat's leaving. Don't go far. No other councillor is interested in nominating for that position. That be moved by Councillor Churchill, seconded by Councillor Trevor, that Councillor Hanson be appointed to the Gladstone Area Promotion Development Limited. Put the motion. All in favour? Motion's carried. Councillor Muscat, can you return to the room? Thank you. We'll move to the next item on my list, which is the Sister City Advisory Committee, which we just recently reconfirmed. And I currently have two councillors interested in attending, participating in that, Councillor Desley O'Grady and Councillor Glenn Churchill. Is there any other councillors interested? No. I have a mover in Councillor Trevor. Seconder, please, that Councillor O'Grady and Councillor Churchill be on the Sister City Advisory Committee. Seconded, Councillor Muscat. No further are you looking at me strange? Is that right?
Do we have to appoint a chair as well, because one of us have to be a chair on that committee?
Yes, that's according to the, I think that's
According to the terms of reference.
terms of reference, that you have to appoint a chair.
Thank you. All right.
Appoint.
Can we have one appointed as the chair of that, please?
I'd like to appoint Councillor Muscat, please, as chair.
Sister
For
City
Sister
Advisory
City.
Committee. No, I've got Councillor. Sorry, I've got Councillor
Sorry,
O'Grady and
I look at
Councillor
you.
Churchill who are interested in being on it.
Sorry.
Can I have someone
Sorry,
else?
I might have ahead of myself. I was
Councillor
looking-
Trevor, you happy to nominate one of those as the chair?
I'm happy to nominate Councillor, supported you last time, so Councillor Glenn.
I'll second that.
Where have you appointed?
As the
Chair.
chair of the Sister City
Sorry.
Advisory Committee? Sorry?
No, sorry, I was one ahead, Mr Mayor. I was looking at the RAP committee.
You're more than one ahead. You're about
Thank you
10
very
ahead,
much,
but
Councillor
okay.
Trevor. Councillor Hanson, very honoured that you would do that appropriately. But in light of the circumstances, we already have a chair, Wendy Marsh, and she does a wonderful, wonderful
does.
job. And I have no interest in de-seating her, if that's the right word. Thank you.
Good,
Mr.
neither
Mayor.
do I. Thank you, Councillor O'Grady. A little bit of confusion there, so I'll go back to the motion, which was that Councillor O'Grady and Councillor Churchill be appointed to the Sister City Advisory Committee. Thank you, Councillor Trevor. Thank you, Councillor Muscat. Put the motion. All in favour, carried. The next item on the agenda is the PCYC Management Committee, and I have one nomination in interested councillor in Councillor Glenn Churchill. Is anybody, other councillor, interested in being on this committee? No. Can I have a move that Councillor Churchill be appointed to the committee? Move Councillor Hanson, seconded Councillor, was that Cameron down the end? Thank you, thanks Cameron. I'll put the motion. All in favour? The motion is all in favour. Still got to put your hands up. Carried. Thank you. Getting through these, I'll move to the next page. The next page is a regional organisation of councils, and there is 2 nominations for this position because that's what the board requires, is myself as mayor and Councillor Goodluck as deputy. Move Councillor Trevor, seconded Councillor Churchill. Put the motion. All in favour? Motion's carried. Capricorn Pest Management Group, we have originally had 3 councillors interested, but Councillor Branthwaite has stepped aside for Councillor Cameron and Councillor Goodluck to continue. Any other nominations for this position? No. Put the motion. Councillor O'Grady, seconded Councillor Churchill, that Councillor Goodluck and Councillor Cameron be appointed to the Capricorn Pest Management Group. All in favour? It's carried. Us a little bit slower, okay. Okay, sorry, have also got the Port Welfare Committee, which has got Councillor Chris Cameron as nominee for that position. Any other councillors interested in that role? No, thank you. I have a mover in Councillor Trevor and a second in Councillor Hanson that Councillor Cameron be appointed to the Port Welfare Committee. Are we all up with me? Thank you. Put the motion. All in favour? Carried. Next item is the Gladstone Healthy Harbour Partnership, which Councillor O'Grady was on, but Councillor Branthwaite has indicated. Anybody else interested in nominating for the Gladstone Healthy Harbour Partnership? No. Can I have a mover that Councillor Branthwaite be appointed, please? Move Councillor Goodluck, seconded Councillor Cameron. Put the motion. All in favour? Carried. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the Gladstone Safe Night Precinct Public Consultative Committee. I have a interested party in Councillor Glenn Churchill. No other interested nominees? Sorry, Councillor Muscat. Thank you. Councillor... Fantastic. Okay, so I move it for that. Councillor Muscat, seconded Councillor Goodluck, that Councillor Churchill be appointed to the Gladstone Safe Night Precinct Public Consultative Committee. All in favour? Motion's carried. The Local Disaster Management Group is by appointment from the Mayor and the Deputy Mayor, so that will be myself and Councillor Goodluck. Can I have a mover, please? Move Councillor Hanson, seconded Councillor Branthwaite. Put the motion. All in favour? That's carried. The Transport Environment Advisory Group, which I would love to see the name change back to the Traffic Environment Advisory Committee, which it has been for since the... Can we?
There's issues of governance. If it's a committee, it has to be constituted in the way that a committee is constituted in terms of reporting to council and decision making. That's correct.
Yeah, I'll deal with it later. It gives me a headache, the fact we change the names of things for no apparent reason.
Well,
but
those that get appointed make it their first mandate, Mayor Matt.
Thank you. All right, so in that position, I have 2 councillors interested, and I have Councillor Chris Trevor and Councillor Rick Hanson. Is that correct? In Traffic Environment Advisory Committee or group. Any other nominations? No. I put the motion. Moved by Councillor Goodluck, seconded by Councillor O'Grady. All in favour? That motion is carried. Councillor Trevor and Councillor Trevor and Hanson be appointed to TAG. The Reconciliation Action Plan. Is that what the one you were talking about before, Councillor O'Grady? I have Councillor Muscat and Councillor O'Grady nominated for this position. Both interested. Any other interested councillors? No, and this is where I need to appoint a chair as well. Over to you, Councillor O'Grady.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to nominate Councillor Natalie Muscat as a chair for the RAP committee.
Thank you.
Thank you. And yourself as the other.
Can I just confirm that's a co-chair?
Oh, is it?
Yes.
Sorry, the co-chair can be picked from all of the members of the RAP, if I understand it correctly, because the co-chair at the moment is another of the members, it's not a councillor. That's, I believe, it's in the terms of reference, but we can double check, definitely.
That's fine. Tanya, yeah?
That's fine. The resolution refers to a co-chair. I can take the time now to check the terms of reference if you'd like to confirm. Can we go co or co-chair?
Yeah, it could be co-chair. Yeah, co-chair.
Okay, thanks. Co-chair's fine. All right, so it was moved, Councillor O'Grady, that Councillor Muscat be appointed the chair/co-chair, and yourself as the other second member of that committee, and seconded by Councillor Hanson. I put the motion. All in favour? It's carried. Thank you. The next one I have is, now these overlap a little bit. I'll go to the Gladstone Sports Foundation. I have one nomination in Councillor Trevor. Any other councillor interested in that position? No. Move Councillor Churchill, seconded Councillor Goodluck, that Councillor Trevor be appointed to the Gladstone Sports Foundation. All in favour? It's carried. The next one I have is the SES, which really overlaps with the Rural Fire Brigade. This is where there'll be votes required. So I currently have Councillor Trevor as the only one interested in the SES, but I need the Rural Fire Brigade representative technically to be the same. They really do work well together. Are you happy with that? Move Councillor Churchill that Councillor Trevor be appointed to the SES Management Group and the Rural Fire Brigade. Is that Councillor, before, I need a second first. Councillor Goodluck, second, and Councillor Muscat, did you want to talk to that?
Yeah, well, I've expressed interest in the rural fire brigades, but then again, if it goes together with the other one, I'm happy for, second, Councillor Trevor.
Thank you. Now we have a mover and a second. Tanya, you've got that for those two positions. Put the motion. All in favour? That is carried. Now, we'll go back to where there's interested parties. So the first one is EQUIP, the Education Queensland Industry Partnership Board of Management. We currently have Councillor Cameron and Councillor Hanson both interested in that one position. Is any other councillor interested? No? Would Councillors Cameron or Hanson like to speak to it, please?
No, I'm happy to take that position on, yeah, mate.
It's probably best that we rotate, and I've been on that now for the last term, so it's probably best that we do rotate, and I would endorse Councillor Cameron on that.
Thank you. So move Councillor Hanson and Councillor Cameron to represent council on that board. Seconder, please. Councillor O'Grady. All in favour? Carried. Thank you, Councillor Cameron. Thank you, Councillor Hanson. The next is the Gladstone Foundation Board of Advice. It's the position is for the Mayor to continue on in that role. As I've said previously, I'll be speaking to the Board of Advice about seeing if another councillor could represent me in that role so I can focus on some other things. But the Gladstone Foundation has certainly got a lot of the funds out of that trust over the last 4 years, and I'm very proud of what the board has done over the last 4 years. But I think it would be good if I could appoint another councillor in the future. But at this point in time, it has to be the Mayor. So,
Mayor Matt, would you accept something that indicates that at this stage, or are you going to wait until later? I'm prepared to move that you be appointed, be it to the Gladstone Foundation Board of Advice, but subject to review of the organisation that Councillor Muscat be the subsequent appointee.
Sounds good to me.
Words to that effect.
Seconded by Councillor Trevor. Thank you, Councillor Churchill. Have you got that, Tanya? And ultimately, love to see and for those listening on the board, I'd love to see the funds wound up and put into the Gladstone Sports Foundation and managed for our community in perpetuity.
You want to second that?
I'm happy to support that, Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, so it's moved Councillor Churchill, seconded Councillor Trevor, that I'll be reappointed to that board, but we seek clarification if I could appoint Councillor Muscat. All in favour? It's carried. Thank you. Now, Reef Guardian Council Steering Committee. We have two interested councillors. I understand Councillor Muscat and Councillor O'Grady. Any other councillors interested in that role?
Could I just speak to that, please, Mr Mayor? I think the person that takes up the LMAC needs to be on that committee, for the reason being it's both talking to the Office of the Great Barrier Reef, so I think that would be captured, like with the SES and Fire Brigade, so I think that needs to be the same person. And can I nominate somebody?
You certainly can.
So can I nominate Councillor Branthwaite, for the reason being that he's actually showed interest in LMAC.
Yeah, I have, for LMAC, I have Councillor Branthwaite, Muscat, O'Grady, Maybe and Cameron who are interested in LMAC, but only yourself and Muscat interested in Reef Guardian, so...
Yeah, so I just wanted to explain that a little bit better, for the reason being whoever did the report up probably didn't realise.
Okay, Councillor Muscat, you're interested in that position as well. Would you like to speak to it, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've expressed interest in both groups, so have a keen interest and passion for environmental issues, and I would love to be part of these groups. I guess I've been trying to be more involved in those ones in the last year and a half, so I would love to be part of the groups now if you all support me.
Thank you. Councillor Branthwaite, did you want to speak to that?
Oh, look, I'm not too much across the roles of the committees themselves. You know, obviously, my history with fishing in the harbour and tourism and that sort of thing. So, I'm quite happy with whatever you decide. I'd personally, yes, I'd like to be involved with the Reef Guardian side of things. I think it's a very important in our whole not only environment but also in our lifestyle. So, yeah. As I said, I'm still got the training wheels on, but it's a matter of knowing what roles they actually play.
Councillor O'Grady, you're on both of those currently. Is it possible to split them, or do you think they really need to be together like SES and Real Fire?
Well, they're both joined with the Office of the Great Barrier Reef, so I think it's quite detrimental that because you speak about the same things basically, so at each meeting. So like there's only one meeting a year for the Reef Guardians, so which the one meeting's the day after the LGAQ conference. So the Office of the Great Barrier Reef actually look after the flights and whatever else to attend that. So that's why I think it should be together.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a mover for a nomination for one, all, or both?
Oh, I can't move myself, but...
Well, you can, but probably better if someone else does.
Oh, okay.
Yes, sorry, I previously indicated before that I would like to nominate Councillor Branthwaite on Reef Guardians and for LMAC.
Okay, thank you. I have a mover in Councillor O'Grady, then Councillor Branthwaite be nominated for the Reef Guardian Steering Committee and the Local Marine Advisory Committee. Is there a seconder for that motion? Seconding Councillor Trevor. Any further discussion?
I just want to repeat my very strong interest in those two committees. I might not have the strong tourism experience that other councillors might have, but I see these opportunities as an environmental concerns, not just tourism.
Mayor, I'm happy to move the appointment of two to those boards, including Councillor Muscat. She's expressed a strong desire to be on the committee, so I wouldn't want to see that lapse.
Okay, I do have a mover, but you can amend your seconding. Back to Tanya. Are we able to appoint two?
Possibly, but the terms of reference may need amending to reflect that. I would have to give further advice on that.
So the motion could be written in a way that we appoint one, and subject to the change in the terms of reference that a second councillor be appointed potentially.
Can I just clarify, these aren't our committees, so we don't set the terms of reference for these, so I'm not sure whether that's something that's possible.
No, but if the local Marine Advisory Committee had interest from two councillors to attend their committee meetings, I'm sure they'd probably welcome them.
Yeah, I agree. Probably the Reef Guardian, where they do pay for expenses to attend the meeting, but maybe they'd be prepared if council paid the expenses for a second person. So just indicating it's not something necessarily within our control, but we can certainly look into it.
Councillor Hanson?
Can I just support Councillor Muscat? She's represented the environment admirably in her time on council, and has been one that's been very much interested in the environmental issues that we face. So I would support her in this wholeheartedly.
Thank you. I never thought these two committees would be so hotly contested, but that's fantastic. Good to see support for that.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, if I can, with the LMAC, excuse me, did you say that was possible to appoint two to that particular committee? Is that the one that we can do two of?
I think the Mayor indicated that they'd perhaps be keen to have more interest.
They can say no, but I would have thought most committees would be very supportive to have two councillors representative. The idea of this is to spread the load so that we can do that, but I do note also that Councillor Muscat and Branthwaite don't have many committees, so I'd like to see them. That's one. Well, there's not many left either. So
I was just going to suggest perhaps if we can appoint two members to the LMAC, and then the Reef Guardian, given that there's only one meeting a year, and it usually follows the LGAQ, is my understanding, to wherever that conference might be held, perhaps it might be best just to appoint one person to that particular committee. And also that's not our, it's not a local committee that we sort of have a lot of authority over.
getting there slowly. A few different things. I actually do have a mover in Councillor O'Grady and a second in Councillor Trevor, but then Councillor Trevor wanted to amend his motion that he seconded, so I might need to throw back to you, Chris, to as the seconder of the motion. Are you still happy to second it, or would you like to stick with your amended motion? I'll have to go back to Councillor O'Grady.
I'll withdraw the previous amended motion, Mayor.
Thank you. So the current motion I have stands is that Councillor O'Grady moved and seconded by Councillor Trevor that Councillor Branthwaite be appointed. Is there an amendment to that motion, or would you like me to put that motion? What do you want to look at appointing to? And to take it from there, I'm going to move it from the chair because I think we're getting a little bit sidetracked here. I'm going to move an amendment to that motion that Council appoint both Councillor Muscat and Councillor Branthwaite, subject to the will of the committee, to the local Marine Advisory Committee, and that Councillor Muscat be appointed to the Reef Guardian Advisory Committee. That's my amendment. So I'll move that way, seconded by Councillor Churchill. Any further discussion on that? I'm going to put that motion now. That becomes a substantive motion. All in favour? Motion's carried. Thank you. And we keep moving through them. Let's see what else is off my list. But Gladstone Regional Road, and it says Technical Committee. Is that correct? I used to call the Gladstone Regional Road and Transport Group, but... Okay. I have 3 councillors interested in this position. Councillor Cameron dropped off. He said he was quite happy to step off that one, unless that's changed. I've got Councillor Hanson, Councillor Branthwaite and Councillor Goodluck are interested in that particular role. It is a very important committee, and Councillor Hanson's been on for a number of years. Over to you.
Can I say that there is some consistency between TAG and a group like this, and that's the only reason I put my hand up to be representative on this. I already am, but I think that between the two groups, one's regional roads and transport and one is safety in roads and transport.
Thank you. I
they
agree.
fit
I
into
think
each other.
we have 2
That's
other
why I
nominations in Councillor Goodluck and Branthwaite, but I do think for consistency and continuity, we absolutely must have Councillor Hanson continue on that committee. That's my position. Councillors, other thoughts? Councillor Branthwaite or Goodluck, would you like to speak to the motion, please? Because I can only have 2 councillors on this committee.
I'm quite happy to drop off if we want to keep that experience there. I was looking at things through a fresh set of eyes again, but it's fine if you wanted to have that continuity. So long as we're able to obviously bring some concerns to the table that can be carried forward to that committee.
Absolutely, both yourself and Councillor Goodluck would offer a fresh set of eyes, so either of you could do that role, because there was Councillor Masters previously who represented Council with Councillor with Councillor Henson. So either one of you could offer that fresh set of eyes.
So just to confirm, Mayor, yourself will be appointed to that?
Ex officio, but it's been very well represented by Councillor Hanson and Masters over the years, so I don't need to attend.
Yeah.
I need a mover or to suggest, we're looking, there's 3 councillors interested. Oh, Councillor Goodluck.
Look, I am going to express interest. I've got no doubt Councillor Hanson has done a great job. I did work. I know the former councillor, Peter Masters, did a lot of work, which I was with him on many trips out west down to Brisbane. Met with many of our neighbouring councils and Department of Transport and Made Roads around the overall, road infrastructure in and out of Gladstone and that economic development aspect for the broader central Queensland. That's why I expressed interest in this particular committee. I also note Councillor Hanson's got quite a number of commitments, so I'm not saying that you wouldn't be able to handle it, Councillor Hanson, but I'm happy to take something off your hands if you want.
Thank you. I need to...
I note that I've got 2 committees at the moment, I think.
Is this two members and we have 3 people interest, right? And then Councillor Braithwaite just said that he was happy to drop it. Is that correct?
I'm happy with your assessment of this, Councillor Goodluck. You did some work with former Councillor Peter Masters, and I believe that we need to have a set of fresh eyes on there with an experienced person. So, as you're forcing the issue with me that I have too many boards already, I'm happy to step out of this particular one.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, could I just clarify, and perhaps with Tanya, in our report, there's the Mayor and 1 other councillor to be nominated, but there's been discussion of 2. Can we, is that what the terms of reference indicate?
It has always been the Mayor and 1 other councillor, but I stepped away last term and handed the chair over to Councillor Masters. And so I'm not seeking to be on this position. I would like it to be 2 councillors. So they've done a very good job over the last 4 years, and I'm busy enough.
So I'm very happy to relinquish that position to Councillor Braithwaite.
Okay, thank you. Then that makes it a lot easier. I yes, support that decision there, Councillor Hanson. Well done. I think you've done a very good job. I would have liked to see you continue on, but we do have some fantastic support over here, and Councillor Goodluck has been there for 4 years, and the fresh eyes from Councillor Braithwaite will be good as well. So that does look through our traffic infrastructure development scheme funds from the Queensland Government, so it's a very important committee. So to move by Councillor Hanson that Councillor Braithwaite and Goodluck be appointed. A seconder, please. Councillor Trevor. Any further discussion?
Do we have to appoint a chairman now or advise chairman now? Would that be good?
Tanya?
No, I don't believe that's our role.
Okay, thank you. Good. I'll put the motion now. All in favour? Thank you. Congratulations, Councillor Goodluck and Councillor Braithwaite. Keep moving through. Where was that? Regional Arts Development Fund Committee. Is that the next one, Tanya, that you haven't got? Thank you. All right, I have 2 interested councillors again, Councillor Churchill and Councillor Muscat. Any other interested councillors in this role? How come everything that Councillor Muscat wants to do, everybody else wants to do? Sorry, Councillor Churchill has been on this committee for a number of years as well, so I'll throw to you first and then...
Thank you, Mayor Matt. Yeah, just to remind, I'm very supportive of rotation, but I'm also extremely supportive of continuity. I was actually appointed the chair after former Councillor Bush's departure, be it about 18 months ago. And I suppose our focus has been on good governance. It's been on financial accountability, training and mentoring, and also to take a region-wide approach with delivery. I respect the diversity of all aspects of the arts, from traditional, which is the basket weaving that Councillor Trevor is very keen to participate in, to modern technology. So our committee have travelled into the future with apps and podcasts, and you've seen many of those come to this council. It's a hard-working committee, supported by our council personnel. We have new members on the committee from the recent AGM, taking a region-wide representation. And also, from my perspective in that leadership role as the chair, I've been backing support for our committee's volunteer mentoring. On a personal side of it, I've studied art, I'm a qualified musician, and I've been associated with RADF for many years in different ways, shapes and forms. But can I just acknowledge 2 particular points that I bring to the attention of my colleagues here today in your deliberations, is that during my time as chair, we have successfully increased the budget and the partnership funding from the Queensland Government, Arts Queensland, and also from our own council. And my final comment is, thanks to the wonderful efforts of past and current committee and our Gladstone Region Art Gallery and Museum personnel and volunteers, in particular our RADF Liaison Officer, Di Paddock, I'm very pleased and proud that this council's records clearly indicate that the Gladstone Regional Arts Development Fund, better known as RADF, has achieved 100% success on a statewide comparative, and that's to the efforts of the past and the current committee in project delivery and project acquittals. So I simply ask, why change leadership of a success story? Thank you.
Oh, very passionate speech there for Radif. Over to you, Councillor
So I
Muscat.
take it, Councillor, you would like to be the chairman?
My passion will continue no matter what role I have, Councillor Reid.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I didn't have anything prepared, but I guess I expressed interest in this committee because, well, I consider myself to have worked in the art sector. I understand how it works. I understand their challenges. I know many of the artists, and from all different, parts of art. From musicians to photographers to painters to. I have also worked in a number of not-for-profit organisations with RADF funding. I have also been lucky to receive RADF funding myself, so I understand how to write those applications, how to acquit them, what we want, what our council and the state government want to see in artists that are part of that program. I also I recognise how this has been extremely successful with Councillor Churchill and before as well, and the hard work that everybody within the gallery and that department do every day to have the RADF be what it is. I also believe that we can improve it. I also believe that I can bring something different, new ideas. I'm part of what you would call sort of a younger way of doing art as well. And so, I will really love to be part of that committee and chair that into the next 4 years if you support me.
Thank you. It's good to see some passion around the arts. Good work. Any other councillors are interested? No. So I'd like to have a mover from the floor with nominating either Councillor Churchill or Councillor Muscat. Then we'll have a seconder and then we'll have a vote. And then we'll break for morning tea. I think this is our last one tenure, isn't it? No, I've missed something. Okay, great. We're not breaking any time. Can I have a mover for one of the councillors to be nominated for this position, please? Councillor Goodluck, you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I just only on the I think both Councillor Churchill and Councillor Muscat would do a fantastic job. Got no doubt. Only on the basis that, from my very quick calculations, I think Councillor Muscat is leading Councillor Churchill as far as appointments to other committees, and also given that Councillor Churchill's only been appointed for 18 months, so some continuity would be beneficial. So I'll move that Councillor Churchill be appointed to the RADF.
Thank you. Move Councillor Goodluck, second to Councillor Branthwaite that Councillor Churchill be appointed to the RADF committee. Put the motion. All in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thank you, Tanya. Okay, so what have I missed?
We have the Gladstone LNG Regional Community Consultative Committee.
Okay, well, they meet on a Tuesday on council meeting day, so we were probably not going to nominate someone to attend that, but we could just have someone that could be the liaison officer. Councillor Goodluck, you were there before. Oh, yeah?
I think because of the fact that the meetings fell on a Tuesday, that you weren't able to attend, but I can easily put my hand up if you didn't want to do that.
Okay, so we could still nominate someone, just that you're not going to make the meetings. Council is the priority, so...
They might change it, Mr. Mayor. They might.
I just, and we do still, albeit though I couldn't attend the RCCC meetings over the past term, we still get minutes, we still get communication from those proponents, and there's still an opportunity to have input and be aware of what's happening in that space. So I think Councillor Branthwaite would still take that role and contribute where he can.
They were actually looking at winding that up anyway, so, it might be wound up in the next 12 months.
So if I second the motion, if I second Councillor Goodluck's motion for your nomination, is that part of your mandate to wind it up?
No, he doesn't get that mandate. Move Councillor Goodluck, second and Councillor Churchill, that Councillor Branthwaite be representative on the LNG Regional Consultative Committee. All in favour? Motion's carried. Okay,
Can I
Tanya.
note, Mr Mayor, that I think that's counting total 5 to Mr Branthwaite this morning? And he's saying that I had 4 or 5. I've only got 2 at the moment.
Well, it is a little bit annoying when you
Outrageous.
get appointed
Thank
or
you.
not appointed based on numbers like that.
Just have to straighten the record.
Okay, thank you. Tanya.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. We also have the recovery subgroups to confirm. And then you may want to consider the Gladstone Airport Corporation.
Okay, let's go to the recovery subgroup. So just confirming what the ones for COVID-19 first, and do we have to reconfirm for bushfire, or are they right?
The terms of reference state a single councillor as the chair of each of those subgroups. So that's what this is seeking.
Can I just get clarity on that, or clarification, Mayor Matt, if you don't mind, because I believe the previous resolutions was that there was 2 councillors appointed. One was appointed as chair, and the other one was appointed as deputy chair, albeit, you know, whatever the other word may mean, super sub.
So we're looking for one councillor appointment to the 4 subgroups: human and social recovery, economic recovery, environment recovery, and infrastructure recovery.
I think the suggestion was that there be 2 councillors appointed, so one as chair and one as deputy for each of those.
I'm happy to remain on human and social.
Excuse me, Mayor, would it make sense for those who are already on those recovery subgroups to remain as such for continuity points of view? We've already got people, councillors appointed. It would be crazy after a short period of time to replace them and appoint new ones.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I thought these were related only to the bushfire. You're suggesting that they're for COVID-19 as well?
That's my understanding, yes.
Sorry, Mr Mayor, my understanding is not with COVID-19. It's a different group altogether. These groups here are for any other disaster. That's what I was...
Perhaps if I might make a suggestion, perhaps we could defer this component and bring it back separately. I do note that some other councils, such as Livingston, have task forces that they set up, which are permanent, ongoing groups that pivot and respond to whatever disaster is happening at the time, whether it be cyclone or bushfire. I know we've probably treated it differently here in recent times and changed the way we're dealing with those, so perhaps we could bring that one back separately if you're happy with that, Mr Mayor.
Yeah, I'd like to do that. I'd like to bring that report back, so I'll move that way, but that report be tabled at the...
I'll move to defer, Mayor Matt,
Thank
if you
you.
like.
Seconded, Councillor Churchill. All in favour? It's carried. Tanya, do we have any
Doesn't
other...
mean we have to do what Livingston does, though.
No, but Tanya, do we have any other boards, committees? Oh,
Gladstone Airport Corporation.
thank you. We'll deal with that one then we can break for morning tea. Okay. Current Councillor Goodluck. Okay. Someone's keen for a cup of tea. Councillor Goodluck moved that Councillor Hanson continue on the role of Gladstone Airport Corporation, seconded by Councillor Trevor. No other nominations. I put the motion. All in favour? It's carried. Thank you and congratulations, Councillor Hanson. It's going to be interesting times ahead there. We will now break for morning tea. Just for the benefit of those watching online, there'll be a placeholder put on and we'll be back probably in about 15, 20 minutes. And just for those also watching, it may look like that we're not currently social distanced, but we are. We've got ourselves a bigger room here, and the way that it looks on camera is it looks like we're a little bit closer than we are, but we certainly are abiding by the social distancing. In fact, this is even bigger than the chamber, so we'll see you all again shortly. We have a next item on the agenda, resume the meeting. What is the time, actually? Better do that at 11:10. The next item on the agenda is G3.5, which is Biosecurity Program Surveillance Winter 2020. Over to you, Mark.
Morning, councillors. The Biosecurity Act allows local governments to adopt biosecurity programmes to manage the biosecurity risks across the region, and we're seeking your approval to implement the winter surveillance programme.
Thank you. Move for the officer's recommendation, please. Move Councillor Goodluck, second to Councillor Hanson. Question from Councillor Muscat.
Yeah.
You do realise what this is, yeah?
Yeah, it happens every winter, yeah.
Yeah, it happens every winter, thank you. And that's actually why I wanted to ask. They're just questions I have in general, nothing to do with the, I support the motion. So, but I wanted to find out a little bit more information as to how we measure the success of these programs, and is the community ever consulted? I got some notes here, sorry. And there's also at what part we assess the quality of the products that we use to combat some of the issues, well, you know, weeds or whatever else is that we use. So, and yeah, how do we assess the efficiency, value, and environmental impact?
Yeah, so I guess there's a couple of things in that. So the first part would be the success of the program is highly dependent. So my team, my pest management team we're in customer experience, we're customer focused. So we're very reactive based on the customer service requests that are coming in. So that takes up the majority of our time. The rest of our time is then spent on inspecting other areas and parcels of land to find out if there is weeds there. And if there is weeds, then we will then move into that phase of compliance and enforcement. So we also have the battle with your pest plants and weeds is that the seeds would lay dormant in the ground for up to 20 years in some cases. So a lot of these landholders that we're already working with, we continue to work with them every year. So whilst we endeavour to do new inspections every year, sometimes we just don't get there because we're too busy managing what we've already got. So I guess we look at what new ones are coming in, but we also like to have this program available so that we can, if we've got the time, go and do more land and new properties. The second part about the weeds and the chemicals that we're using and the spraying, so that's completely separate to this report, and that's a different function or activity that my team now does. And so we stay current with all the current research that's being done. We actually participate in research programs with the state government, so that way we can monitor that, and we work with AgForce and a couple of other industries as well to determine what is best practice currently, and then that way we can apply that best practice to council land. So we also share that information with the landholders and the ratepayers in the region so that they can then overcome the pest plant issue in their areas as well.
Okay, that sounds good. So would you be able to, so when it comes to measuring the success of the program, so is there a process we follow, or?
No, not particularly. Like I can do reporting and get statistics on how many parcels of land have occurred, our inspections or our compliance has occurred from these programs, as opposed to CSR driven or just complaint driven essentially, or from historical knowledge of our landholders and our workers in the region. So I can get that information. I do have it available, just not here right now.
Yeah, that will be really good, because I mean, I don't have anything against it, but it's hard for me to know that whether, you know, this is actually working or not working if I don't have any of that information. So it will be great to be able to have some measurements there on the efficiency of the program.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mustard. Councillor Churchill.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Matt. Yeah, a wonderful report. Just and the very simple questions here, hopefully the answer can be quite straightforward, but when we're talking about core infestations and we're talking about the movement, be it when the rain comes as such, my first question is, we have properties that are being sold. What's our process from a council perspective in relation to communication to new landowners who come onto the property and perhaps may not necessarily have come from a rural background?
So there currently is no process. So there is the option for people who are purchasing land to undertake a search. So the search will give them that information, so we can go out and do the inspection and identify if there is weeds on that property and what those weeds look like. However, as a particular targeted program, there is not anything set in stone. It's something that we like to look into the future on how we can actually connect with those people, because there is a lot of people who are absentee landholders, and they're not aware of the issues on those parcels of lands in a lot of circumstances. So no current process, but that's something that we're definitely looking into.
Yeah, that wasn't necessarily a loaded question. It was more a matter of trying to make a determination in going forward as we start to see new property owners take up some of our rural sector as such.
Yep, some of the existing
So we have no
ones-
internal process. What about the state government?
So, well, for the existing ones that we're already working with those people, we know when they say to us, we're selling our property, so we will make contact with those people when we know about it to say, all right, we've already been working with this previous landholder, now we're going to work with you about this. With the state government, we work quite closely with them, so we have direct contacts with Department of Natural Resources, Mines and Energy. We also have contact with Queensland Rail and a various number of other key stakeholders in our region, because we want them to play their part. So national parks and for all your state government land as well. So we are quite frequently talking to them to find out what are they doing, show us their plans, we analyse their plans and give them feedback so that they can meet what's required under our biosecurity plan as well. So we do that quite frequently.
Okay, thank you for that. I mean, that's probably something that needs to be looked at for the future.
Yep.
As such. But my other point, and you've already articulated some aspect of that, inspecting those that should be inspecting their own, which appropriately is our own properties, but also the state government. So I'd just like to be comforted that we have the same level of, I suppose, biosecurity requirements and compliance levels for council and also the state government land as we do for our landholders.
Yep, so the Biosecurity Act is, the same rules apply to absolutely everyone, so that's state government, council, as well as our direct landholders. So we're endeavouring now with some slight movement in my team to start undertaking more inspections of council land so that we're meeting our general biosecurity obligation. And as I said, work quite closely with the state governments to ensure that they're meeting theirs as well. So that way we can reassure our ratepayers that yes, we are focused on ours and we're focused on state, because that's where a lot of their anxiety is that the bigger parties aren't doing their part. So we make sure that we work quite closely and do those inspections so we know what we're working with.
Lovely, thanks very much for that.
Councillor Hanson?
And industry as well.
Yep, so we work
Another little bit of a problem.
Yep.
Yeah, we're hearing more and more of original landholders, and everybody hears it, getting infested by new people on properties, and it's a good point. And also industry and state, of course, yeah.
Yep, that's right. So we use our existing networks to work with all those key stakeholders, we call them, across the board, and we also have the biosecurity plan will be reviewed this year, and they form part of that biosecurity plan review as well, so that way we can have those conversations with them. And as I said, it's all about consistent expectation across the region for all players in our region.
Thank you. Councillor Branthwaite?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. It got brought up probably quite loudly in the Boyne Valley when prior to the election that obviously the national parks have got a huge problem with Parthenium weed, and it's coming down out of the national parks, and there's been a lot of accusations there from the likes of the local residents that border onto the national parks that the Queensland government or parks aren't doing their bit. But obviously there's communication with you guys. But yeah, I think it's one of those things that are obviously ongoing. But do the national parks have a major weed eradication scheme concerning that particular weed?
They have a weed eradication scheme, but obviously those national parks are obviously managing their burns. Like, it's the same team that does their vegetation, their burns, they do their conservation as well. So obviously they have a pool of money, and that's why we're working with them to try and identify, yes, they might be your priorities, but as a local government, this is our priority for our region. So how can we work with them to obviously elevate that biosecurity subject in their budgets so that we can get some more action happening for our landholders. So it's definitely something that we're working on.
Thank you.
Any other questions, councillors? Councillor Trevor?
I just have a couple of brief questions. The first question related to your answer to Councillor, you hear me? Answer to Councillor Glenn Churchill's question, and that was when a purchaser of property conducts a noxious weed search. My follow-up question in relation to that is if there is noxious weeds identified on the property and if the purchaser proceeds, do you have a similar process in place to that where you identify in the suburban areas that there is an illegal patio constructed on the premises? Do you follow up if noxious weeds are identified on the property and the purchaser proceeds? Do you follow up with the incoming purchaser advice and assistance in relation to eradication of those weeds?
Yes, so the pest management team and biosecurity team have a whole range of assistance options for our landholders. So we do the inspections to let them know, identify the weeds, but we also have a whole range of options for them to seek assistance to help them overcome it because it's quite expensive. So we, at the time of doing those inspections, will provide them all that information, and then we'll set a schedule to follow up with them. So that schedule can vary dependent on the weeds of when we will follow up, because all the different weeds grow at different times and at different speeds. So we do make sure we follow up, and we provide that opportunity again to say these are the options available, how we can help you, and are you interested? And then we'll work through them on that. So we do it at the time that the search is requested, but we also do it following the actual sale going through.
Okay. And given that the weather pattern for 2020 is shaping up to be similar to that of 2012, where the expectation is that there will be an increased amount of moisture around in June and July, that is a wet winter arriving on our doorstep at this stage. Early predictions are that that is going to be the case. Will you increase your surveillance and attempted eradication of noxious weeds during that period, given that there's likely to be increased growth because of that wet season?
Yeah, so I guess two parts to that is that, yes, we do that. We'll continue doing that. A lot of our most weeds that have the highest complaints relating to them actually grow year round, just about due to our climate. So we will continue doing that and focusing on those landholders and those areas where they are a prominent issue. And the other part of it is so the weed control for eradication that we do on our own land and our own roadsides, that will continue as well. And a lot of those weeds, you can apply the chemical for a series of weeks or months in advance, so that once the rain does come, it will activate at that point in time. So we closely monitor the BOMs, their weather updates and their forecasts, so that way we can actually apply the chemical in the right time or apply our inspections at the right time and share that information with the landholders so that they're effective in what they're doing as well.
I just noticed, as an aside, prior to COVID-19 becoming a major issue, which created some restrictions in movement, that prior to Christmas the noxious weed Leucaena was very much under control by the council, and since we had the wet season it's very much now out of control. And everywhere you go, within its own limitations in relation to ability to travel, it seems to be springing up everywhere, and obviously as a result of the wet season. And that was my concern, that if we have another wet winter similar to 2012, we're going to have a lot of work on our hands in being able to contain what is an obvious problem, including Leucaena in the community.
Yep, so yeah, it's definitely one of the ones that we do target, especially in our downtime. So that's one that we're closely monitoring, and we're lucky that we have a lot of customers or community members who are always reporting to us new infestations or ones that they've identified, so that we can go and check those ones straight away.
So the message to come out of today's discussion is that if community members identified noxious weeds, you would welcome calls from the community so that those infestations can be dealt with?
Yep, that's right.
I like it, Councillor Churchill.
Thank you, councillors. Ali, there you go. That's the most questions we've ever had on that topic in the last 20 years, I reckon. Nice work. Good questioning. I think had Councillor Goodluck was prepared to move, and seconded by Councillor Muscat. I put the motion. All in favour? Thank you. It's carried. Thank you, Ali. Back to you. I think it's over to Mark Holmes now. Is Mark dialing in? Oh, he's here. Thank you. So the next item on the agenda is G 3.6, which is the monthly financial report for the period ending on the 31st of March 2020. Over to you, Mark.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Councillors, as required, this is the monthly financial report through to the end of March, and also includes a forecasted position of the council through to the end of June. So what we've done with respect to the performance is lay this out so that you've actually got your actual position there, your budget. So that is your formal adopted budget, but then where we're predicting will be as at the end of June. With respect to overall performance, in summary, whilst our income is down $5 million, that has been offset by a reduction in expenditure of $6.5 million. So in terms of an overall performance perspective, there's actually a net positive at the moment in that space. So from an overall operating position, that we were seeing a slight increase in our operating surplus to $3.2 million forecast as at the end of June. The biggest risk and the biggest single risk to that at the moment is the timing of the receipt of our federal assistance grant. So we receive untied monies from the Commonwealth by way of federal assistance grant that generally we've received half of that money, which equates to $3.9 million. We budgeted to receive that, and that's generally received after the bringing down of the federal budget. With the delay in that, there hasn't yet been announcements with respect to the timing of that receipt. Whilst our budget incorporates that, and so does our forecast, it is a risk in our position. I would expect that we're lobbying to receive some advice on that on the coming days. But that'll be a issue for all councils. Why can't we accrue it? So most other receipts we'd accrue because we're likely to respect, because it is an untied grant. That is, it's not a grant for a specific purpose. Under the regulations, we can't accrue that because it's essentially just treated from an accounting perspective as essentially a donation or a cash receipt. So we can't receive or recognise any accrual in that respect. So overall, there has been obviously some significant movements, but we're likely to be in line with budget cash position flowing through into the upcoming financial year. With respect to our capital performance, as you might have expected to see, certainly the decrease in activity associated with COVID, but it was certainly obviously flagged well before then, is that we are going to have some trouble in getting to in and around the $40 million mark with respect to delivering our capital program. So the current forecast of the completion of the capital program is $40.8 million. So that's obviously well short of our adopted budget there of 74.8. So there will be, when we're going through our budget considerations, obviously how we handle our capital program for in terms of delivery, the balance of the program flagged for 2019-20, but what is the impact of that carryover on future budgets? The biggest single area that I believe we'll have to be closely monitoring working forward, whilst we've received the revenue in for this year, and our collection rates are starting to drift. So as at the end of March, we were at 8.7% in arrears. That is above where we were at the same time last year. It is going to be the single biggest area of risk we have once we levy rates for the next financial year. And something we'll just need to be very cognizant of, and we make sure we're monitoring appropriately. So at the moment, that 8.7% equates to $15 million in outstanding rates.
Thank you, Mark. Questions to General Manager, please. Okay, Councillor Muscat has a few. I'll throw away to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess just going through the report, thank you. It shows a lot of, I guess, you know, where we're going short, where we're not doing too bad. And so I guess my comment, it's more related to the fact that I believe if we didn't have the situation we had now, we would still be well under the completion of our capital works program. So I just, you know, that's something that we need to continue to work on. I know obviously now the situation's changing everything, but it's, you know, well, I guess it helps us because we're in a very good cash position, but well, I guess my point is that when we come out of the other, you know, the other side of this COVID-19 crisis, we need to really look at how to hit the KPIs for our capital works program.
In fairness, Councillor, if I may
Yep.
come in there, we've already made moves, as you would realise, a couple of months ago regarding capital items in this and setting the budget for next year. So I would hope that we will stick to that, the plan that we've put in place. So I'm confident that we can get somewhere near. One of my questions was the same as what Mark said before. I was ambitious to get to 40 million, so this year's, but which you're not confident of getting anyway. Sorry, Councillor, I just wanted to.
Yeah, getting to 40 million would mean spending $5 million a month, which currently we've only achieved that 1 month of this current financial year.
Yeah, no, well, there was a couple of other comments, but mostly just questions around what you think it might happen or might not happen in relation to government, state or federal support. I had questions here in relation to the airport, but we, I guess, discussed that a little bit earlier. There's been payments that we're receiving on electricity bills, for example, from the state government. Any indications that they might want to do something like that with rates or?
So interesting,
sorry.
utility rebate is going on your electricity bill.
Yeah.
So that utility rate, and I'm very clear in the language, it is given as a utility rebate, which is about against electricity and water that we are a provider for. However, the government's allowing and affording that rebate through the electricity bills. In terms of other measures, we're probably still awaiting that in terms of seeing those come to fruition. We obviously need to be cognizant of those. And at the moment, probably preparing the budget on the basis of without those measures, but probably and we're making sure we're attacking it from certainly a very much a conservative position with respect to constraining expenditure back to essentially really close to business as usual, with our discretionary effort really focused on that actually provides that maximum community benefit.
Thank you.
Sorry, you finished, Councillor Muscat? Yep. No?
There was just another comment here in relation to some of the, I guess, income, and I noted that there was some good numbers coming from the entertainment centre, and even though, you know, it's probably one of the areas where we have fallen a lot with the COVID-19 situation, so that's a good thing to read.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Branthwaite, then Churchill.
I was just going back to what was the capital works program. It's quite a sizable figure that we're actually not achieving. Is there any one project that is not happening that takes up the majority of that money?
There's no one project. It's actually probably a portfolio of works, and probably shows some, trying to not say systemic, but it is to me some systemic issue in that space. And I know our GM Ops is bringing a report back to you on that. It's currently that's scheduled for in around the 12th of May, for just to give you an update as to the reasons why, identifying it by actual project, but also what are those real reasons as to that we are getting it. It goes back to planning. It goes back to appropriate timing. We're just probably a little bit being too optimistic in our programming.
Yes.
So I think there's we flag and program for a capital project, and we think that if I've got to spend if a capital project's $5 million, then that's what I'm budgeting for this financial year. It might be, reality might be that expenditure is over 18 months, not 12 months.
Right.
So there's a bit of maturity there that needs to happen in those spaces, and that's an ongoing battle.
Thank you.
Just my issue again is that we are collecting rates based on a capital works program that is not happening. So we really need to understand and stop this from happening. I know we have to have a break at the moment because of the COVID-19, but I look forward to seeing that maturity.
Thank you, Councillor Churchill.
It's part funded by rates.
Yeah, part fund. Yeah, so rates is one of your. Yeah, so there's only so to me, and this is my very crude explaining of from a financial perspective, we fund, and we talked about it in some of our induction programs, and when we're looking at funding our capital works program, that's how some of our discretionary money comes over out of our operating result. So if I'm only making an operating result of 3 million, there's not a significant room there in terms of funding on our rates. That rates is really around funding our existing balance of work and the replacement of their assets. So there's the replacement piece, which is in and around the $41 million a year. So the $3 million is the discretionary piece in that space.
Thank you, Councillor Churchill.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Matt. Comment and then probably a question to yourself, I suppose. But you've indicated in here, Mark, your working capital ratio shows the ability in our current assets, and it's honourable that Council has a large cash balance, but we also need to be very mindful that we also are still carrying debt, and we have had a focus for the previous 4 years by the previous council, and I've got no doubts that this council will continue in that effort to ensure that we put the inertia in to ensure that we continue to reduce that debt. Would that be the case?
Your current debt policy and long-term financial forecast doesn't include debt. So at the moment, it's looking at funding of that from your cash balances and utilising, if required, a working capital facility in the outer years. So not taking on up term debt.
I'll take that as a yes. Thank you for that. The other part to you, Mayor Matt, in your role with, and you mentioned earlier at the beginning of the meeting, you spoke about the financial assistance grants, the old cherry that I keep going on about, but that's not the intent of my question, is that Councillor Chris Trevor earlier indicated we've got a wet season looming. I'd just like to get an understanding, and I'm sure my colleagues would as well, in relation to ALGA's efforts and perhaps the LGAQ effort for Roads to Recovery, albeit the Roads to Recovery program, which is capital works, but also in alliance with the NDRRA. If we do get that wet season, you know what happens in the wet season, it affects a lot of our rural roads. So I'd like to be comforted that there is effort at the state and the national level to the federal government in relation to stronger commitment to John Anderson's, I suppose, birth project of Roads to Recovery.
So Roads to Recovery is one of the highest priority projects for ELGA. President David O'Loughlin is lobbying probably every day through, he doesn't sit on National Cabinet, but he's direct contact with Prime Minister and Cabinet on behalf of all local government in Australia. So he is pushing for an increase in federal assistance grants. We obviously tried to get the federal assistance grants increased to the 1% it was under Gough Whitlam, which was many years ago and has slowly been whittled away. But if we could get that back to even close to that, would be fantastic. We can get halfway now, and that would certainly increase the funds to local government right across Australia, that we could then offer some kind of rate reliefs and avoid sorts of borrowings and things that we're talking about. What we did over the last 4 years and what we intend to do this budget is something for this boardroom to decide, because we have our community that is hurting, as everyone does. Not just our residential and rural ratepayers, but our commercial ratepayers. I've had a good conversation with our industrial ratepayers. They're not expecting any relief, and that's fine. But I'm sure the rest of our ratepayers will be looking for some leadership from council to to soften the blow of this pandemic. Roads to Recovery is the other program that they're pushing at an ALGA level, as you said. It's a fantastic program, and it gets people on the ground. It gets, whether it's council doing the job or whether it's contractors doing the jobs, it's all about job-creating projects and delivering those infrastructure things, whether they're bridges or roads or whatever else. So absolutely at an ALGA level and LGAQ. LGAQ's got the $600 million plan that we put to the state government, but we don't believe that this is just a state government responsibility. The federal government collects 80% of income tax, or tax, not income tax, 80% of the tax that all residents in Australia pay. They kind of need to bear 80% of the burden of this, and they're doing a fantastic job with that $130 million, or $1 billion. But, like I said before, that didn't come to local government. We've been excluded from a number of programs, so we need to make sure that we continue working with them with programs like Roads to Recovery. But if we can get an increase in federal assistance grants, it helps every local government, helps every community, and it does exactly what the Prime Minister says and gets directly using programs that are existing and proven. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's what we're doing.
It does to a degree. I would hope that in your leadership role at the ALGA, in understanding that what we don't want to see is we don't want to see the Roads to Recovery program being pushed off as part of an economic stimulus, because the Roads to Recovery is there for its needed reasons. Yes, it'll have an economic benefit, but the Roads to Recovery was effectively about predominantly rural and regional roads. So I wouldn't like to see that being used off as an economic stimulus and someone gets excited about it because it's already a set program. If there's going to be an economic stimulus, it'd be nice to see both.
The idea is to increase. So Mark can probably tell you, I think ours is $3 million. I don't know, Mark, you might be able to tell me what our Roads to Recovery allocation is. $4.5 million. So what we would be saying is...
So that $4.5 million is for a 4-year period, so it works out to be about 1.12 a year. Yeah.
So that's that would be what we expect as per usual, because that was voted on and approved and announced at Mount Gambier many years ago. I'm thinking probably now about maybe 2012 or something like that, where the Local Roads Congress had an announcement there that the Roads to Recovery would continue. So that funding is for us, but what we're looking for is like a doubling of the Roads to Recovery or more. Correct. Similar to what we're offering and asking the Queensland government. So it's all 3 levels of government working together, but we can't have one level of government saying, well, you look after your local governments because local government's a creature of the state, therefore you're responsible for looking after that. I don't buy that, and I don't accept that, and I think this is a 3 level of government working together to support our communities. So, and that's what we'll continue to do at ALGA, and that's what we'll continue to do at LGAQ.
Okay, thanks for that. No, I support that wholeheartedly in your endeavours, and obviously ALGA and LGAQ's endeavours. And I suppose the question at this stage as we go into a budget cycle is, our capacity in the circumstances. We've had challenges to deliver our capital works program. So if we see the big wet, the winter wet coming, and we see the inertia from be it 4.5 to, or be it double, that'd be wonderful. That'd be 9 million. As long as we've got the capability and the capacity to be able to deliver the capital works projects, it's nice to get the money, but we've actually got to put the black on the road.
We can do that because we generally use contractors. So it's not a matter of whether our own staff are doing that. We do use some Roads to Recovery for gravel roads and things, but some of the Roads to Recovery can go on to like Bridges to Recovery and things like that, where you get a contractor in, a major contractor to do it, which still means local jobs if you have a look at your local preference policy, or when tenders come to this council, it's totally up to the council to decide, what we accept. Over to you, Councillor Muscat.
Yeah, that's a good point, but at the same time, there's also that timing and the time that it takes us through, the tendering process, procurement, and also we can't just have everything happening at the same time. There's not enough contractors sometimes to do it all. So, and that's some of the maturity that I was talking about before when we actually schedule. And that's one of the things that I first learned when I came into council when we did the asset management stuff. So how we can better plan for our money to be spent properly, so we actually take also advantage of the best value for the money that we have. So that scheduling with the contractors. So not everything happens at the same time, and there's nothing happening for 6 months. So that's something that I believe we really need to push from this table to have our teams work on that.
thank you. Any further questions to Mark? Before you do, I had one, Mark, and it's just for on notice, but I'm sure we're doing anyway. This is for March. We've got May and June, obviously, before the end of the financial year. I just want to make sure that what we've already budgeted for and already included in this current year's budget, that's been reviewed, and if it's not an unnecessary program or it's not a necessary expenditure, that it's either being considered to be held over or postponed, or does that need a resolution? If it's already in the council budget to happen, does that mean it just has to happen? Or are there certain programs or projects that we might decide that at an officer level you can decide we shouldn't be doing those, or because it was a budget you think it needs to just happen? Or
The focus we've put on is actually around the focus of the 2021 budget. We probably haven't deliberately gone through and revised every single program that we've got operating currently under that same lens. Having said that, though, we have been looking at applying those principles as to how we invest. So generally the major projects that are continuing are those that are around our transformation, so making sure that we've got the right tools and the right people in investing in our systems and our people. So that's where some of that discretionary effort is currently being applied. But most of the other discretionary work has eased back, absolutely.
Thanks for that. I just want to make sure, like, just because something's budgeted for, normally we'd expect the management team to go on and get it done because it's been budgeted for, but and I don't want you to act outside policy, of course, but if there's something that we budgeted for that just doesn't need to happen, it shouldn't happen. That's just my point. All right, I might move to get a mover. Councillor
No, I've just got one other quick one, Mayor Matt.
Yep.
And this is very simple. We made a decision of council in good governance for a delegation to the CEO during the caretaker mode. Is that motion expired now? Just want confirmation publicly.
Yes.
Great.
Thank you. Move Councillor Goodluck, the officer's recommendation. A seconder, please. Seconding Councillor O'Grady. I put the motion. All in favour? It's carried. Thank you. We move to the next item on the agenda, which is G3.7, which is development application for a material change of use of premises for a relocatable home park, 190 sites staged at lot 101 Bryant Street, Agnes Water, Queensland. Councillor Trevor has declared a material personal interest and is leaving the room.
May I be excused, Mayor Matt?
Yes, thank you. And I hand to you, Mark. And Helen.
Mayor, as you said, the application is for a material change of use for the relocatable home park. As you've seen from the report, this has been quite a long assessment period, quite a complicated assessment, but a good example of our officers working with applicants with the aim to provide positive outcomes. The application was assessed against the relevant provisions of state planning policy, the planning scheme in accordance with the Planning Act, involved referrals to other agencies, and given the location is zoned as an emerging community, additional assessment criteria also applied. The recommendation is for approval of the application. We have Helen Robertson here as our Manager of Development Services, who's here to answer any detailed questions you may have.
Excellent, because I have some. Helen, could you pop the table, please? Where should we start? Can we get this actual site? Have we got a, there it is, that one, thank you. Okay, don't suppose you have a pointer, Helen?
I don't.
Just for everyone who might not know where we're talking about. Oh, that'll do. Who's got that?
That's me.
Lisa, can you point to Bicentennial Drive? Yeah, and the nearest neighbour's properties, Helen?
Along
Right.
Bicentennial Drive, those
Yeah, so-
house blocks there, yes.
Yeah. One of the, I've got a few, so I'll do a couple and then I'll throw around the room. One of the objections is regarding the proximity of the number of houses or dwellings to their neighbouring property. And I guess there was a couple of points. One was saying they're going to be less than 300 square metre.
Yes?
Yes?
So the conditions that we've imposed on the development is that the ones that adjoin the rural residential lots to the south along that boundary must be a minimum of 300. The proposal plan had them smaller than that. In addition to that, the setback, we've requested that be increased from 4 metres to 5 metres, and that's consistent with the development to the west that was approved by council in February this year. So whilst they're not lots, if you like, the 300 square metre footprint, the buildings are also set back a further 1.5 inside that 300, so effectively providing a 6.5 metre buffer between the boundary and the built form of this proposal.
Excellent, that's a good outcome there. Couple more, might as well go. The increased traffic and foot traffic is the inclusion of a footpath.
Yes,
Yep.
there's a condition for a footpath for connectivity into
Can
the...
you explain for the people watching online where the footpath would be?
It's along Donahue Drive. Sorry, just bear with me a second. It's to connect from the subject site all the way through to the existing footpath network in Donahue Drive. So you can't zoom out on that map.
That's all right. We can.
Yep.
Most people should know where that is by now. The school, the principal of the school, had a submission in with 3 statements, and I think we got them. There was the increased traffic, pedestrian traffic, and the increase in fencing size. They wanted it from 4 foot to 6 foot. Is that being included? And if it isn't, why? And if it is it in breach of council policy on the site of height of boundary fence?
There is a standard condition with respect to fencing, and that's what we've imposed. So there is new fencing along there. I'll just check the height.
It was originally for 4 foot, and the school was asking for 6, I believe.
Yeah.
And a number of people
We
suggested
work
that.
in metres.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yes, so do my children. Errol, how long's the boat?
Depends which boat you're talking about.
Don't you?
Mine was 9.
Oh, where is it? I can't
The-
find it.
Something to do in feet, something to do in meters.
Yeah. 25 footer is 7 metres.
I think the fencing's also being addressed in the landscaping master plan as well, but I'm sure it's in here. It is a standard condition in relation to, I just can't put my finger
Now,
on it.
while you find that one, yeah, we'll just have one more, then I'll throw to you, Darryl. The trees on the neighbouring properties that some are telling me they're 20 metres high. When at some point they become considered dangerous, like an arborist decides they're dangerous, and they might then be considered to fall on the new development, whose responsibility is that?
I believe it's the responsibility of where the tree is, but that's not something that's relevant to this consideration of what might happen in the future in relation to trees on a neighbouring property.
Okay, so we can't impose a condition on them to say that they have to be set back further again because of where the current... Okay,
No,
fair
that
enough.
wouldn't be a lawful condition.
Not a lawful condition. Thanks, Helen. That's what I just needed to check. And I think I might have had one more, but I'll throw to Darryl.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Matt. Just as a thing that I've seen in here is that obviously you've got 190 blocks and potentially 2 people living in each. There's about 400 people plus other people living on this particular site, and we've only got one access in and out. Now, there was a suggestion in the application that access be granted to Bicentennial Drive. Once the neighbouring block starts to get developed, there would be a need for another access to that particular block then, would there not?
It's not a requirement. The access provision is sufficient from Bryant Street. Obviously, those other properties are in other people's names. There's, if we were to be considering a consent through them, that would need to be made as part of this application, which it hasn't. So we can only consider the application on the material that we have, and we couldn't condition that further access be provided through someone else's land.
So you don't have any idea of what the neighbouring block would be used for down the track? Has there been any word on that?
Which neighbouring block are you
The one to the west?
Yes, there's an existing approval on that, and that's listed through the report. There's a number of approvals over that site, as there are over this site as well. So there has been some consideration about how they marry into each other, particularly in relation to servicing. That being said, we need to ensure that each development can be developed in its own right on its own and doesn't rely on an adjoining property.
Right. I just imagine the people that are on Bryant Drive now would be horrified the amount of traffic that'll be coming in and out of there. And it'd be nice to be able to spread the weight or the flow, so to speak.
The figures earlier in the report demonstrate where the access points, etc., are for the earlier approvals. And I guess the main thing to consider also is that that street, where it sits in the hierarchy, can cater for up to 3,000 vehicles on that road.
Okay.
That's the design.
So my final question was, I noticed in the vegetation plan that went through there was a sensitive zone that actually was removed to, obviously it was a wetland at the eastern end of the property. It's further down.
Yep.
Yeah, it's actually a long way further down. But yeah, keep going. The next, and we're coming up to it soon. There's so many drawings there. But
It's the approved SARA drawing you're talking about, the plan that was approved by SARA? That shows where
yeah,
the
with the
wetland is?
vegetation and sensitive, and there was obviously a wetland in amongst all that, but then it got rezoned on that particular corner as.
It's not a change in zone. That's the plan, sorry. It's not rezoned, it's a protected area.
Yeah. Oh no, it was just there was other colours brought up in there. That's not actually the one I was looking at, but yeah, that's okay.
So the environmental considerations are undertaken by the State Assessment Referral Agency, that's SARA, and that was their approved plan there, and they have their own conditions that specify that development can't occur in that location where the wetland is dedicated there.
Here we go. See that red mark there? So your blue mark on the left-hand side, see the diagram on the left-hand side, and then it's been removed to make way for that particular property. You know, the blue was actually a sensitive area as far as I'm concerned. Oh, as far as I'm not concerned, I was aware.
So it was mapped, and the proponent took the opportunity to get the specialist consultants to get that state mapping remapped accurately as per what was on the site.
So it was too generalised before, was it?
Sorry?
Was it too generalised before?
Well, that's the one before, the one on the left.
Yeah.
And then the amendment is what's on the right, based on what's physically on site. So there was a challenge from the applicant that the mapping was wrong by the state, and they had it corrected.
Okay, thank you. That's cool.
Councillor
If I
Churchill?
can just-
Oh, sorry, Helen, then
If I
Councillor.
can just let you know that it's a 1.8 metre, 6-foot acoustic fence.
Oh, that's one of my questions, I think. Can come back to that one. Thanks, Mayor Matt. I have some serious concerns about this particular development application, but to the Manager of Planning and Development, are you professionally satisfied that all issues have been identified? I mean, through that process, this is 2018, I think, if my memory serves me correct, which is a lot of water under the bridge in the past couple of years, and I always work on the philosophy of determining, well, I don't know what I don't know. You're satisfied that between 2018 and 2020?
Yes, there's a lot of material that has gone backwards and forwards, and we've been consistently in contact with the applicant. There's, as you can see from the table that's listed in the report, there's a fairly considerable timeline and notation of issues that have been identified throughout that period. And that's also been from the state assessment referral agencies as well, so further information was required to satisfy them before their approval was issued as well. So it has been a long process, and there was a lot to consider in this report, and we feel that we've comprehensively covered that in the report before you today.
So you're indicating the state referral agency have sanctioned the project?
They've approved it under their jurisdiction, yes.
That's fair enough. A couple of minor matters and a couple of major matters, and I suppose a segue on your question about the fence. In your response here to one of the submissions, you're indicating that it would be a solid fence, a solid boundary fence. What, in your eyes, as a condition, would be a solid boundary fence?
So one that doesn't have gaps, so a pool fence would not meet that requirement. It would need to be fence that is a screen fence, if you like, so joined with no gaps.
And just remind me again, how high was that going to be from?
1.8.
1.8, okay,
metres.
1.8. Just a question in relation to, well, actually there's an acronym in there, and again, we live in a world of acronyms, and I must have missed it. What's the HES wetlands? What's HES stand? HES?
High ecological sensitivity.
Beg your pardon?
High ecological sensitivity.
Oh, I thought you were talking about me. High ecological sensitivity.
I've got more words I could use for you, Councillor.
Thank you, Councillor Henson. I'm sure they'd be complimentary.
Significance, not sensitivity.
Ah, there you go. It's not sensitivity, it's significant. High environmental significance. HES. Thank you for that. The other question I've got is in relation to traffic. I suppose I have a genuine concern about the amount of traffic, probably not necessarily in stage one, but in the development. That is the suppliers, the trades people, and
So
the list
during
goes on.
construction?
And I know, and I read your response as such, but do these type of planning and development requirements for traffic management go to our traffic environment advisory committee, or is this a planning and development approval?
Planning and development approval?
In terms of operational works, in terms of the actual construction of the site?
In terms of traffic management on our local roads?
Yeah, during construction?
Well, be it during construction and I suppose thereafter, because my next reference will be 16 stages, but and thereafter, does our TAC or Traffic or Transport Environment Advisory Committee have a say in that at all?
No. So
None.
with the operational works application, they will come in one application for each stage, and so the actual matters pertaining to that particular stage will be dealt with at each operational works phase at that time, and that will include a traffic management plan. And during that process, we would ask how they propose to manage the hours of operation, for example, and ways in which they can mitigate the impacts on the existing residents.
Thank you for that response. So in giving that response, is there some level of community engagement, community consultation, community awareness, community acceptance as part of that traffic management plan?
Yes, and one of the conditions, one of the dot points under the operational works requirements for that condition includes how the applicant is proposing to communicate with the community as part of that.
Okay, thank you for that. On page 66, and I don't know whether it was not necessarily a backflip, but trying to get an understanding. On page 66, in your response to the planning scheme about the character and the unique identity of this particular area of the township, in the third line you've indicated there that Agnes Water is considered an urban centre, not a coastal township.
Yep.
Right? No, that's fair enough. I'm prepared to accept that to a degree, that this is an urban centre, but it's not a coastal township. But on your third bottom line, albeit your fourth, your applicant has to submit a suite of building plans to illustrate varying roof lines, colours and textures to maintain the coastal design of a coastal township.
Yep. So in terms of the assessment, section 3.8 references Agnes Water as an urban centre. It's not a coastal township. So 1770 is, for example, but Agnes Water is not. That being said, we are still requiring that the material used be reflective of the overall area, which includes those types of things. So what we're saying is, whilst the planning scheme specifically doesn't require it given that it's a centre, not a township, we're still being complementary to the existing built form in the area by requiring some consistency in relation to the building typology.
Of those that are already there?
Yep.
Okay, thank you for that. And I suppose my last question, again, 16 stages, and they're giving a timeline there of those 16 stages. And I don't have a crystal ball, unless you've got a crystal ball in front of you.
Certainly not.
as manager, but when would you anticipate the 16 stages would be completed by, and what's our requirement to make sure they fulfil that?
There is no requirement to make them fulfil that. The approval has a currency period for 6 years to commence, and then there's a condition in there that requires subsequent stages to occur within 2 years.
So, subject to that response, do they themselves, in that 6-year period, have the right under the planning scheme, or the right under the Planning Act, or any right whatsoever, as proponents, as approved proponents, if this was to be approved, that they could come back and extend that period of time?
They can request, anyone can request an extension on any approval at any time, but they have to get their approval in place first. So there would be subsequent approvals that are required, particularly in relation to operational works. So depending on, they may choose to do that straight away, they may choose to do that in the 4th year, or they may choose to do that in the 6th year, I'm not sure.
Thanks for that.
Thank you. Back to you, Councillor Braithwaite.
Just one last little question. With it being obviously affordable retirement village, is it requirement that it is an owner-operator scheme and it can't be sort of, you know, be holiday lettered?
Yeah, the proposal as it stands is to operate under the Relocatable Homes Act, and those provisions are quite tight, and the management of those types of things fall underneath the provisions of that act. And that's probably one of the pluses of this development in that regard. So that's something that they don't permit.
So the likes of Airbnb and
Correct.
that sort of thing it's purely an owner-occupier scenario. Thank you.
Sorry,
So
that
good.
wouldn't stop anyone from doing Airbnb situations and things like that, for example.
The operation of it would under that act.
Okay. And so that actually, well, that's very interesting then.
Thank you, Councillor Goodluck.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thanks, Helen, for a very comprehensive report. Just about every question I had was answered throughout the report. But there was just one thing, and I'm not sure whether I got lost, but the unlawful clearing which happened at the start of this journey, can you just clarify for me how that was dealt with? Because
It wasn't dealt with, so effectively it's come to light as part of the assessment. So very much at the start when the proposal first came in, the first thing we do is obviously check it against the mapping, and that's where we were concerned that the mapping and what was on site didn't match, and that's why it was referred to get that advice at the time. So in those instances, you can't even actually accept the application, and that's why right at the very start there was a little bit of concern about whether the application was properly made. So we made sure we got those checks and balances in place.
So the mapping came back that it was incorrect, and therefore the clearing was no longer unlawful, is that?
So there was two different elements. The first element was whether or not we could accept the application as properly made, given that we were aware that there was inconsistencies in relation to the mapping and the clearing on the site. So that was cleared up first, so we were able to accept the application as properly made on that basis, given advice from the State Assessment Referral Agency. That didn't, however, prevent the application from being required to be referred for proper assessment, and that was what's also been undertaken and the approval been issued in that regard. So there was two different elements around that.
Okay, so in the end, the unlawful clearing was in fact not unlawful, basically.
It's probably not for me to say, but it wasn't deliberated on by State Assessment Referral Agency. They were satisfied to enable an approval to go ahead.
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Goodluck. Councillor Hanson.
For me, the biggest risk, and it's already been mentioned, is in the construction stage with existing residents and being so close to the development. I think you've got that in acceptable outcome 12 and acceptable outcome 31. I think you've covered that off as to making sure that, you know, that part of the construction is done correctly and within the guidelines that you put down. It is a shame that we couldn't go somewhere else as an entry, like or even off Springs Road or something like that. But I know there's all properties along Bicentennial, but in future developments, would we insist that the developer look at those outcomes before they take that easy option going through residential? Is that part of
are we talking about construction again?
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'm talking about
Overall.
permanent access, maybe the two accesses, one from the original road and one from either Springs or Bicentennial.
I
In
guess
this instance.
ideally, the site that we're dealing with on the basis that it has very limited frontage. I guess in the scheme of things, a block of this size would generally have a greater frontage, so we wouldn't have that issue. That lot wouldn't be created like that now, for example, the original lot. In terms of construction, it's much easier for us to negotiate potential alternate uses of other people's land for a period of time. So there may be opportunity during the construction phase, and when we can deal with the applicant from the operational work side of things, to be able to suggest that perhaps they contact a neighbouring property and enable access through there at that time. That's not something we can condition at this point, but we've certainly highlighted it as something that we would definitely want to consider in terms of the operational side of things. Yeah.
So that would be a great outcome if you could get something like that.
Sorry, good, back to me. Obviously, it's cyclone rated, and the firefighting capability is met. My concern, and the biggest one I have, is, and I think even the report supports it, it's allowing, or correct me if I'm wrong, under 55s.
Yes.
So, well, on page 57 there, that's what it's basically saying. The needs analysis is suggesting that there'll be so many under 55s, but then even in the report it says that this helps fill a lack of...
Affordable housing?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I personally would prefer it was a retirement village, fully retirement village, and not not allowing residents under 55. Can you explain to me?
They didn't apply for a retirement facility. They
So-
applied for this use type.
So
And we've
that-
challenged them on that a number of times.
And well, then on another topic, then have they not had conversation with us trying to access council's infrastructure charge rebate?
I haven't had conversations in relation to the rebate on this site, no.
No, well, not eligible if it's not fully.
Yeah,
That's
they're
what the
not
report says
eligible.
that.
Yeah.
They're not eligible.
Yeah.
That it
This
says
use
that we
type.
did approach them to consider that.
Yes.
So
Yeah. Okay.
there's a number of reasons why they didn't. So obviously they didn't want to limit themselves to be able to sell these properties to over 55s only. So
Yep.
so that was more important than the rebate, I guess.
Yeah, that's obviously what their position is. It's more important than the rebate. I'm struggling with this one, Helen. I feel like it's an overdevelopment of the site, and I was more comfortable when I thought it was a retirement village and it was for seniors who may not necessarily require a larger block of land, that they are downsizing, that they've got body corporate, that they've got a community that they feel safe in. And in my own head, I could think, well, you know what, this is something our seniors have been looking for. I know we've got 2 that have been approved since then, another one in Agnes and one in Tannum. Retirement livage type facility like that, I could probably bring myself to support. At the moment, it just seems to me like to be a real overdevelopment of the site. And can you, I know you're the expert in this, but can you convince me that why I should support this? I know I've read your report, it's detailed, and I've read all the objections, and I get that most of them are pro forma. A lot of them are the same, which was reading the same thing over and over and over and over and over was a bit frustrating, but they seem to hit home with their objections. It just seems, because they're so small, it just seems to be a lot of houses or dwellings in a very small area over.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 2 issues. One is the definition of the use, and the other is the density. So if we cover off on the definition of the use, it was very important to us to understand what it was that they were actually applying for, to be able to determine the best way forward for the application and the subsequent considerations around that. And the biggest issue in relation to the report is also about justifying need in the emerging community zone. And if you look at the table, if you look at table 6, it talks about there was in the first report that they submitted to us, they kind of jumbled up retirement living and also retirement accommodation, retirement units, and those types of things. So there was some confusion around definitions in there, and we weren't satisfied with that material, and we said, what is it that you're actually applying for? Because for us to be able to determine need, we need to make sure that we're comparing apples and apples. Now, to get to that point, a lot more work was done around that. And the proponent came back and with a revised report. And if you look at the right-hand column at the top there, that is their customers. That is the clients that are going to be within this one single overall development that is managed under the Relocatable Homes Act, sorry. So they're not lots that are sold off separately. They're all going to be operated within that jurisdiction. And in doing that, they acknowledge that the bulk of their customers are in fact people that are pre-retirees or retirees. That's just a side effect of the type of operation that they have. But they did not want to restrict that development to only being that, and that's not something that we could condition either. So to get the product that they want with the freedom that they need to be able to provide what is a shortfall in Agnes Water for affordable accommodation, that's the definition that they went with, and in that instance, those numbers stacked up in terms of demand to justify approving it within the emerging community zone. So that's the definition argument put aside. In terms of density, we did question on density a couple of times, and in the emerging community zone, it talks about providing for a density at a minimum average. And so what it's saying is, if you have land that is suitable for urban development, we really need to make sure that we're capitalising on that so that we're getting enough density in there that is adequately serviced in terms of managing growth, rather than continuing with urban sprawl. So in doing that, the density is maybe a little bit high, but it's not inconsistent with the adjoining approvals on the site and also the approvals that's on this site. They've got an existing approval for residential land development on this site as it is, and it's a bit higher than that. It's not significantly higher than that, it's a bit higher than that. So I would suggest, given where it's located, given it's tucked away, it doesn't have a huge street frontage, it's not something that's going to be visible as on the entry into Agnes Water, for example. I think all of those elements combined are enough to justify an approval in this instance.
Thank you. Any other questions, councillors? No? Do I have a mover for the officer's recommendation or an alternative? Thank you. That's moving the officer's recommendation. Councillor Muscat moved the officer's recommendation. Do I have a seconder? Seconded Councillor Branthwaite. To put the motion, all in favour? Motion, those against? Motion's carried. Thank you. Trevor, could we have Councillor Trevor back in the boardroom, please? Just wait till Councillor Trevor's back and then we'll carry on to the next item. Oops. Thank you. Yep, all right to start again. Thank you, Councillor Trevor. Move to the next item on the agenda, which is G3.8, which is amended metered standpipe, mobile and fixed, and hydrant usage policy. Over to you, Tanya.
Thank you, councillors. This report considers a minor amendment to the mobile metered standpipe, mobile and fixed, and hydrant usage policy. This policy is currently under review by the governance team. However, this minor amendment to the policy is required to allow the business to proceed with its COVID-19 social distancing requirements.
Thank you, Tanya. Moved. Councillor Goodluck, or question? Question?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just quickly, might be Tanya or Mark, but when is the policy due to come back for review? Do you have a time frame on that?
We hope to have it back within the next few months. We have had a little bit of, I guess, disruption to our policy review program. We've had some of our officers involved in the COVID-19 response, and we're currently reconsidering that to see when we can bring it forward. But it is currently being worked on.
Thank you.
Thank you. No further questions. I have a mover. I move Councillor Goodluck, seconded Councillor Hanson. Put the motion. All in favour? Motion is carried. Next item on the agenda is deputations. There's no deputations. No councillor reports, unless there's a written councillor report.
Could I ask just a quick question in relation to deputations? Are we, has anything changed in that because of the social distancing, or?
If someone asked for a deputation, we could certainly see how we could accommodate that. At this point in time, I don't believe we've had any requests for deputation, so we could either invite them in the room provided they meet the social distancing guidelines, or they could do it by teleconference, which we have some staff members up online now.
Great, thank you.
Okay, no council reports, no urgent business, no notices of motion. Sorry?
Mayor, I just seek a point of clarification at the start of this council term in relation to councillors' reports. It's always been my understanding that from the last council that if you wish to provide a councillor report, you would do so in writing rather than orally at councillor meetings. Has the position changed, or is it likely to change?
It hasn't, but if I want to go to the council's report, if someone puts their hand up and wants to speak, I could always throw to them to speak. Ideally, a report would be written, that way it can be documented and kept in the minutes, but if I get to that point and a councillor would like to make a comment, it's almost, we'll take it like general business.
Thanks for that. Could I just ask further clarification of Councillor Chris Trevor's request on that? Is that, from what I understand, is it has to be in 2 weeks, be it prior 2 weeks prior to the council meeting. Is there any flexibility on that if there's something that actually occurs during that 2 week period that lapses, otherwise it ends up becoming 4 weeks?
All you do when I go to council reports is table whatever you have written in that 2 week period, and I'll take it then. Councillor Muscat?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to, I guess, clarify what is that we're reporting on, because it's, in a way, what constitutes a councillor report? I can sit here and tell you all the things I've been doing about, in relation to my council duties and things like that, but I don't think we want to actually do that and sit around the table and tell everybody what we've been doing. So maybe just a bit more of clarification as to what constitutes something that we should be reporting or not. Like, I know, for example, there was a paragraph within the appointments to groups and committees in which the officers recommend that we have at least a quarterly, I think it was quarterly report in relation to the groups and committees that we sit on. So that could be, certainly something that will sit there. But I mean, where do we draw the line as to, I met with, my mates at the CWA and we did this and that. So it's just so we have an understanding for all of us and I guess equality and the time on the microphone too.
Thank you. Councillor Goodluck?
I just think we all need to use our own discretion as far as what we think is valuable to colleagues around the table and the broader community as far as our councillor reports are concerned. That's all.
Yeah, thank you. As I said, I'm happy to take them at the meeting, ideally if written, but if, like Councillor Churchill says, something happens and we can raise it then. There's also the opportunity for councillors to raise urgent business as well, and then you also have the opportunity to do table notices of motion to rescind previous motions as well. So
I think those reports, though, if I may, Mr. Mayor, should be relevant to council. We've had them before brought to council in the last term that were more political outside of the council chambers. So I think they must be relevant to the council chambers and council decisions.
thank you. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Yep. All right. No worries. Thank you. We'll move on. The next, no notice of motion, no confidential items. So at 12:22, I'll declare the meeting closed and hope everyone enjoys their Labor Day long weekend. First Monday in May. Thank you.